And streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Last night, May 21st, in the year of our Lord 2025, a day of epic collapses as we welcome you into the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester. Glad you're with us. Thanks for listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950. Our video stream is up and rolling for you. You can watch the sports bar on our YouTube channel, also on Twitch at the Fan Rochester, the free to download Odyssey app, and on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. Gino and I, our last day of the week before we get to the long holiday week. And Gino, after doing some urinal cake show prep, I have a feeling I know what you want to start with today if we're going to talk about the collapses that happened in the world of sports last night.
I knew that was going to happen with the Knicks. I swear to you, and maybe that's the, hey, I grew up here. I've seen this happen with 13 seconds and no goal and everything else. But when the Knicks had a lead and there's 3 minutes to go and you're looking at this, okay, it's at 14, it's at 11, now it's down to 8. Okay, back up to 10. Oops, down to 7. And you just keep doing the math. It's, oh my gosh, if they get the last shot, they're going to lose this game. And then they get the last shot and, he had his foot on the line. But at that point, Danger, it didn't matter. Is it possible to lose a series in game one? Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh, no, come on.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
This series is not over.
It's not, but on the other hand, had Boston just shot a wee bit better in game one or game two. That's the difference.
Well, the difference is the Knicks' defense, right? Like the defending.
Where was it?
The defending down the stretch against Boston was impenetrable, and you're going up against Jesus in a Pacers jersey last night. I mean, walking on water, hitting 6 consecutive. Neesmith could not be stopped.
Who is this guy?
And what in the Kawhi Leonard did we see at the end of regulation? That shouldn't happen. That's a bounce that shouldn't happen.
Chances are you've seen it by now for the one or two that did not. Pacers down by 2. Halliburton, top of the key, takes the 3, back iron, straight up into the air.
Straight to
high up into the air. Clock is at 0. Swish. And as he's in his celebration, and you have to admire this, 1994. Like Reggie Miller going to Spike Lee with the choke sign. Like I as a Knick fan, I can respect
you
that.
Can't be angry at it. You cannot be angry at it.
No, it's and the thing that can you be angry at your defense? Can you be angry for 2 missed free throws for the Knicks? You make one of those, we're not talking about this today.
Right. I don't know that I would say that the Knicks choked as much as the Pacers were just unstoppable. They couldn't be stopped. They were hitting over 70% down the stretch. The Knicks were still scoring.
The Knicks ran out of gas, though. Like, that was the last 2 sequences where Indiana goes up and should have been an and one, but where was the defense on that? And then, like, the last 3 Knicks possessions, it's like, oh, my gosh, they almost threw it away. Whoa, there's heart tripping. And then finally they do turn it over. So, to me, you don't have to wait that long. This isn't the American Hockey League. We get game 2 tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Knicks and Pacers. And is this a must-win for the Knicks?
I say it is.
Yes.
I think if you want to be a champion, you bounce back from this. I mean, you're not going to be considered serious unless you can come back from that kind of an adversity, that kind of a loss. Teams trailing in a playoff game by 14-plus points in the final 2 minutes and 45 seconds of fourth quarter are now 1-994. Gino, tough loss for the Knickerbockers. But Again, if you're a championship team, and, I've been calling Halliburton a killer all postseason. He is, but the Knicks have killers too. Brunson's a killer. Yeah, he might have to score 40 points every game this series for them to advance to the finals, but he's a killer.
Karl-Anthony Towns went for over 30 again. I'm like, okay, boom. If we get him going, you're good. And it wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough. No. That was collapse number one. And collapse number two, unfortunately, came at the hands of Laval as the Rochester Americans dropped game 3 north of the border.
By the time I tuned in, I'm like, wait a second. They're down 1-0. Yep, 15 seconds in. It's Tuck all alone, so missed assignment. But the Amherst defense did their thing, Danger. But in the end, if you give up only 5 shots in the third period and you're allowing 3 goals on those 5 shots in the third period, Rushek ties it up. You're thinking, this is good. 1-1. I'll take my chances here in the pivotal game 3.
Didn't take long.
No, it was less than 2 minutes later. And then the shot. Oh, gosh, who is it? It's Jockeye again. Great. Yeah. That guy. Danger, it's a backhander that goes over the upper shoulder from not the best angle. You got to come up with that if you're Devin Levi. I'm sorry.
This is head coach Mike Leone on last night's loss.
I actually really liked our game. That's one. It's just a momentum killer. Like I think the shots were 26-12 after the second and third period. I thought we played a really good game. That's a tough one, And when they get one in this building and they get a lot of momentum, but it happens. But I really liked our game. I thought we did a lot of really good things. To me, it wasn't a 4-1 hockey game. Credit to them. They made a few more plays, a lot of blocks. But if we play like that, I like our team.
I love Mike Leone.
He's got to be the Rocket Gibraltar.
He is
here.
the same no matter what. I mean, the messaging does not stray with this guy, and he's not wrong. You play a good game like that come Friday night, you could even this series back up again, and they usually bounce back after a loss like that. So what we knew was going to be a tight series continues to be a tight series, even though the Amherst now facing elimination. Here's Captain Mason Jobst.
I think there's always been more desperation. Obviously, next game season's on the line. This group loves each other, really enjoys spending time together. I think when there's a threat that is potentially going to end, you get a little bit extra. We all want to continue to play together. It's a great group of guys, and we're just worried about winning one game.
Is that a real experience, though? Like, truly, like actually having been in elimination games, does it help having experienced that going into this Friday?
Yeah, I think so. I think most of us have probably experienced playoffs to some degree of and being in these types of situations. I think as a core group, we've been here before, so those previous experiences, they should help a little bit.
We'll spend some time with the Hall of Famer, the voice of the Rochester Americans, Don Stevens, stops by the Sports Bar live from Laval, coming up here at 4:25.
Yeah, so Don up there. Game number 4 is tomorrow. Wow, we finally have a normal schedule here. And if the Amherst find a way, then, hey, Sunday afternoon, Memorial Day weekend, 4:30 here on The Fan for the 5th and deciding game.
Also joining us this afternoon, later on this hour, about 15, 20 minutes from now, Dan Fates, 13 Wham Sports and Buffalo Plus. We got plenty of Bills news to talk about.
Yeah, who knew we were going to have some Bills stuff? Now, coming on the other end of this long weekend coming up, we're going to have OTAs. And you know how OTAs are. We'll be talking to who's there, who's not. Hey, it's not mandatory, blah, blah, blah. There might be a James Cook update. Who knows? But I didn't think we'd get news this week. Hard Knocks. And it's funny how, Danger, I don't know if this was your experience, but that cuts across everything. Like, that's one where, hey, you're a Bills fan, but that kind of goes over to this is also a television show. And the fact that Rochester is going to be the setting for a long time. Can we call it a reality show? I'll call it a reality show. It's just that, these guys aren't signing up for it. They're being told to do this. So we'll get Dan's thoughts on this and what we might see coming up in late July and August.
The one thing that I will push back on a little bit is I've had some friends reach out and say, my God, that's going to be nuts. It's going to be crazy that they're there. People are going to go nuts because Hard Knocks is there. I'll push back a little bit. I don't think it's going to feel or look any different as far as training camp at St. John Fisher is concerned.
No, it'll be one of those, oh, yeah. Like, if you're the one that likes to take the shuttle and go over, it's not like there's going to be a camera, I don't think, greeting you when you get off the bus. It's not going to work that way.
Right. And we've seen enough training camps to know, like, there are certain days where there's a little bit more electricity in the air because, NFL Network is here today, or, CBS is here today. The NFL radio guys are doing their show from here today. So there's always a little bit of different faces. There's different faces coming in throughout the course of training camp at St. John Fisher. This is just one where it's like there's just going to be added cameras. I feel like there's just going to be a few more cameras than we're used to seeing. But I don't get the sense that it's going to be any wilder or crazier or more frenetic than it has been in years past, just because NFL Films is taping Hard Knocks.
It's funny, like Hard Knocks was the show we all talk about this time of season, but when was the last time you actually sat down and watched?
I watched a little bit last year because it was the Bears.
That's understandable.
But admittedly, even as a Bears fan, I didn't watch every episode. I mean, it also in the society that we live in now, is it acceptable to just watch clips of the show?
Well, that's it.
As they roll through your feed?
That's
clips
it,
that are designed to get you to watch the whole thing on Max?
The last time I really watched the show, I'm like thinking, oh, yeah, that was Matt Ryan and the Falcons. That was in 2014. And then these teams, Danger, since the Rex Ryan year, 2010, Dolphins, Bengals, Falcons, Texans, Jeff Fisher, Rams.
Huh.
What's the line from that? We're not going 8-8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you went 8-8. Congrats, coach. Tampa Bay. Don't remember that. Cleveland. Okay, that guy. 2 awards. That's what I remember about that. And but those were clips. I didn't sit down.
I remember
and watch
the Cleveland season because it was Hugh Jackson versus Todd Haley, and it was just dysfunction on display. It was like, okay, there's no alignment. These coaches don't respect each other. There's a power struggle going on. From what I can tell, Hugh Jackson's probably a great man, but he wasn't a great leader. He was really struggling in that role.
Raiders in 2019. That's the AB, Antonio Brown with the foot issue or whatever it was. Brent Musburger, I remember making a cameo on that, the voice of the Raiders at that point. 2020, no idea this was even on. The Chargers and Rams, they did like a twofer. Who cared about that year? Cowboys in 21. Lions in 22, I remember seeing clips. Jets in 23, nothing. And then the Bears, maybe a few clips. So you don't want to be the soundbite, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
don't
do any. You don't have to do anything memorable. I think the difference between this year's Hard Knocks with the Bills and all of those Hard Knocks that you just mentioned is you've got an MVP at quarterback that can be the centerpiece of the entire series if HBO chooses to do that. I think that NFL Films, I think they would be wise to do that because all of those teams that you just mentioned have crap at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They, maybe was there a year in there maybe with Joe Burrow? I don't know if Burrow was featured. Was the Bengals was one of those years that you mentioned?
That was 2009.
No, Burrow wasn't there for that.
No. I mean,
Goff maybe with the Lions?
The best team was actually Rex Ryan because they would go on to the AFC Championship game with Mark Sanchez in 2010. And,
right.
And they ate that up. So
bad quarterbacks. Lots and lots of bad quarterbacks. And this year you've got the reigning MVP. You've never seen Patrick Mahomes on Hard Knocks. You don't see you haven't seen Joe Burrow on Hard Knocks. You haven't seen Lamar Jackson on Hard Knocks. This is going to be different for Hard Knocks. They've got a quarterback that they can build a series around that, and let's face it, it's kind of competing with Peyton Manning's series, right? The quarterback series where he does have Joe Burrow and he does have some quarterbacks participating in this year's series. So in the quest for eyeballs, I don't think they could ask for a better quarterback to center their content around than Josh Allen.
I'm sure, too, that maybe the folks at Max HBO, by the way, they're going back to HBO. Did
Good.
You see that?
They
Yeah,
should.
They should. Yeah, that's what most people call it. They're probably like, can we get a good team, please? Chicago was interesting last year, I suppose, with Williams, but gosh, you want to see a team that actually is going to be a contender right now.
I'm more interested. I would be more interested in seeing year 2 of Williams than I was seeing year 1 of Williams because I knew that the coach was a dud. This year, I'd be interested in seeing, like, okay, what is Ben Johnson doing? How does his message resonate? Because we knew what we had with the stiff, with Eberflus. But look, I think with over 24 hours now to process the news, if you were negative on the idea of Hard Knocks coming in here, try to shift gears and think about the positives. And the biggest one for me is, for anybody that wants to say, oh, there was no Super Bowl champion that's ever been on Hard Knocks. Yeah, but look at who's been on Hard Knocks. Of course there was no Super Bowl champion. Those guys didn't have quarterbacks. The Bills could be a Super Bowl champion. We like their chances. We like their roster this year better than last year at this time. And as a Super Bowl contender with Josh Allen at quarterback, maybe they buck that trend.
Also, I would say, if we're comparing this to the 2009 Bengals, by the way, who was the offensive lineman that was overweight and he was flapping around? That was the one thing I remember.
Oh, from Alabama. I remember who you're
Lake
talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, in 2009, not everybody had a device in their hand where they could, like, film at any point. It's not apples to apples, but what I'm saying is that today's athlete is keenly aware that the camera, when they're out in public, it's always on. So this is just kind of a different level of it. But if you go back 15, 20 years, they didn't have to worry about that half the time.
Colts owner Jim Irsay passed away last night, 65 years old. 3 daughters. He's survived by his 3 daughters, 10 grandchildren. And I know his 3 daughters are basically taking over. They'll be nothing official has been announced yet, but one of his 3 daughters has been more active here in recent years. We knew that Irsay had kind of like slipped out of the public eye in recent months after, I mean, it was a couple of years ago now that he had.
Yeah, it was December 23, where according to the police report, the report said it was overdose. The Irsay people in the Colts were like, no, this was just, I forget how they phrased it, but since that point, it hasn't been the same. And, I can't say he tweeted because a lot of people, you may have your own social media. Somebody else may be handling it for you. But Jim Irsay was always one to go to social media. And it was just yesterday morning, Danger, where he put out a good luck to the Pacers, and something for the hometown. So, gosh, whatever happened, it must have happened pretty quick.
I mixed feelings on Irsay. I guess the guy that I'm going to remember, what I'm going to remember him for, I mean, he was certainly a unique owner. He was original. He didn't hold back. And I think the last memorable thing that he did while owner in the NFL was speak out against the rest of the boys club against Daniel Snyder. I mean, he was really the guy that said, yeah, I think it's about time we move off of this guy.
Yeah.
And
which to this day, I don't know why the NFL went, well, I guess I do because Daniel Snyder was threatening things. Irsay didn't care.
Yeah.
Irsay,
and nobody else was speaking up on what a dirtbag this guy was. Irsay had the cojones to actually say that, and just shortly thereafter, Snyder was out of the league. So I'm going to try and remember him for that because there's some other checkered parts of his past. But you can't be angry at a guy who was with the organization as long as he was, GM at a young age, owner at a young age. His passion for that franchise, his passion for the Indianapolis Colts is undoubted, and you can't dispute it. And, hey, you drafted Peyton Manning. You drafted one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. You got to reap those benefits for years, appearing in 2 Super Bowls and winning one. Jim Irsay, only 65 years old when he passed away last night.
Yeah, I mean, and gosh, and he said this himself, that number of times he had been in rehab, quote, at least 15 times. So somebody that was battling lots of things. And, yeah, it's you're not immune from this, right, when you have wealth. So Jim Irsay, 65, that is too young.
Aiden Hutchinson is fully cleared to return to the Detroit Lions. He had been recovering from last year's broken tibia and fibula, an ugly, ugly injury, but fully cleared to return. So he'll be back ready to go by training camp and off-season work here with the Detroit Lions. And I also thought this was interesting, Gino. There was a quote from Steelers owner Art Rooney. Now, you remember earlier in owners' meetings, the winter owners' meetings, they were asking him specifically about how long they would be willing to wait for Aaron Rodgers. And he said, well, we'll wait. We won't wait forever, but we'll wait. We'll give it some time. And he really kind of like doubled down on that when asked about it at the conclusion of the Minneapolis meetings this week, saying that they're going to give it a little bit more time on Aaron Rodgers. We know Aaron wants to be here. We're going to give it a little more time. Their off-season program, their OTAs, start next week. and they run through June 5th. Then you've got the 3-day mandatory minicamp, which concludes their offseason program, wrapping up on June 10th. We still haven't heard from Aaron Rodgers. He's given no indication of a timeline or when he wants to sign.
He did speak with Joe Rogan, though. So, and probably McAfee is like, wait, what, shouldn't you be talking to me? And Rogan really didn't press him on any details, but saying, and this was recently, that there are people very close to him that are currently dealing with cancer. So, okay, who are those people? I guess you can't ask, but that might be the reason why. It could go to your benefit, Danger.
And you know how this goes. Yeah. I mean, if he gets criticized for holding out, he has this as a trump card.
Yeah.
And, how dare you criticize me for wanting to take care of my beloved family, or whoever, not family, because he's kind of disowned his family, whoever it is that's battling cancer, if that's to be believed, if we believe Aaron Rodgers, if we take him at his word, which I wouldn't question you if you said no, but it's cancer. I mean, you'd have to be pretty low to make up an excuse as like, oh, cancer is my excuse for not signing with the Steelers. It's a guy that
Aaron Rodgers low. No, I mean, this is the quote. I've been in the weeds with these people who are close to me that have cancer. Who are these people that are close to you? If it was your parents, you would. I'm allowed to question Aaron Rodgers, am I not? It feels like you're putting up the cross and say, no, immunity, no, cancer, back off.
It's the same guy that used wordplay to get around the question of whether or not he was vaccinated for COVID. So I think everybody can question what exactly his motives are. I'm not going to question his timetable. He's a free agent. He can do whatever he wants. But to bring it back to the Steelers, this is once again a team that fashions themselves a 10, acting like a 4. All your eggs are in this basket now, and what if he says no? Or what if he says, yeah, I'm not going to show up to OTAs. I'm not interested in doing any of that. And he doesn't show up until training camp. Is that good for the Pittsburgh Steelers? It feels like that might be a miss for the Pittsburgh Steelers, to not have your potential starting quarterback with the team and learning everything that he needs to learn about that offense.
He's 41.
That's what makes this kind of gross if you're a Steelers fan.
41.
And every day that passes, it just feels like it's worse and worse and worse. Like, what are you guys are going to have to make a decision here, an announcement at some point as to what your plan is as an organization. He's not holding you hostage. He's living his life, and he's going through some stuff if you are to believe what he's saying.
If the Steelers went 10-7 with Aaron Rodgers, would Steeler fans sign that up? Hey, you're not the third wild card this year. You're the second. Congratulations, you're the 6th seed. I'm just going by history and probabilities. If Aaron Rodgers, Danger, won 10 games as a Steelers quarterback amongst quarterbacks who have won games in this league after the age of 40, that would put him third all time. First, of course, is Tom Brady at 55. Earl Morrall got 15. So, yes, there have been advances in science. Yes, probably Aaron Rodgers treats his body like a temple. No, I'm not going to believe that all of a sudden what you saw last year for the Jets is going to be poof. Instantly better when, let's face it, the Jets actually had better skill players. You had Devontae Adams. You had, a good running back. I'm sorry. Like, for the Steelers, they've screwed themselves. So, Aaron, wait as long as you want because the Steelers are a bunch of fools.
We've got Dan Fates, 13 Web Sports and Buffalo Plus, joining us next in the Sports Bar. Our lines are open this afternoon. You can pull up a stool here in the Sports Bar on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. We'll give away some Brian Regan tickets to see him at Kodak Center as well this afternoon. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub at 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
update.
For the first time this postseason, the Rochester Americans facing elimination after the Game 3 loss in Laval. Head coach Mike Leone stressing the positive.
Honestly, I really like how our team played. To me, it wasn't a 4-1 hockey game. They made a nice play on the goal and got a little momentum in that 5-minute segment. But I really liked a lot of the things we did. Now, our backs up against the wall. We're going to need the same effort. But I thought we did a lot of really good things.
Game 4 is tomorrow night here on The Fan. We will talk to Dan Fates, 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus. Talk a little Buffalo Bills football coming up here in the Sports Bar. NBA tonight, it's Game 2, Minnesota and Oklahoma City. Knicks and Pacers, Game 2 is tomorrow night. Yankees at the stadium beating the Rangers today 1-0. Carlos Rodon, 2 hits in 6 innings of work. Red Sox and Orioles rained out. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Let's catch up with Dan Fates, Buffalo Plus, 13 Wham Sports. The Buffalo Bills are going to be featured on Hard Knocks, Dan, and I think with just over 24 hours to process it, most fans are excited about it. I think Rochesterians are 100% excited about it, but as a Bills fan, knowing what we know about teams' lack of desire to be featured on this show, how do you think everybody's been processing this according to what you've seen so far?
Yeah, it's actually just up there in Buffalo. They had a Highmark movie press conference. So I actually just got back and was actually able to talk to Reed Ferguson, who's going to be one of the stars of the Holiday Touchdown, A Bills Love Story. And I asked Reed about being on Hard Knocks and kind of the impression, because I think some fans, while they're all excited, it's great to showcase Pittsford and everything that Rochester has for the training camp and HBO, all that stuff. I think some fans may see it as a little bit of a distraction. And Reed kind of said they're around cameras so much to begin with. I don't think it's that much of a change. He said it'll be a little different because there'll be cameras in meeting rooms and cafeterias and things like that. But he kind of said that they're, in general, excited about it. The one thing that surprised me, though, guys, was that Reed said they were all kind of caught off guard. I don't think the players knew that the rules to be a team, because they had changed them, where it used to be if you had made the playoffs, you weren't eligible, and you had to be 10 years period, and you couldn't have a first-year head coach. The rules had changed. So Reed said they were all kind of caught off guard when they were announced as a team. So I don't think the players had any wherewithal before it. But I don't think it's going to be too much of a distraction. I think it's great for fans. They'll get even more access to their favorite team and players.
Yeah, I have more questions for you about Hard Knocks, but I want to make sure I follow up here on you going up there for the movie. Does that mean you or Jenna, or maybe even no, not at all? You're not going to be an extra.
I wish. Jenna was making a hard push to be an extra. I'll say that, and it was not accepted. It's fine. They're shooting for about the next month. They were saying that they've been around Buffalo for quite some time. They were at the Patriots home game at the end of the year. They shot with fans and tailgates and stuff like that. So this has been in the works for a little bit. We were just going up there to kind of see what it was all about. And then obviously knowing that there would be a player made available who's in the movie, we also kind of wanted to ask, obviously, Reed about Hard Knocks.
I'm thinking to myself, we were talking about it. Extras have to take like 3 days, right? If you're going to be an extra in the movie, like that's a 3-day commitment where you're not really getting paid. I don't think any of us would sign up for it. Jenna's still interested in that?
Jenna's still interested, very much. Big Hallmark holiday movie fan.
Oh, boy.
They end up together in the end. Like, what are we even doing?
Gene, spoiler alert. Come on.
Gene, the suspense.
I mean, they have to. Gosh, they have to have the Bills going to the Super Bowl or winning it, right, Dan? You're not cutting the movie off at Christmas time.
No, and we don't know when the movie's coming out. That was the other thing. They're trying to work around it with the NFL so that they don't release it on a day that there's a massive game. And we were kind of joking around that the NFL seems to now be playing on every day of the week. So I don't know what day they're going to pick, but it is based somewhat. They wouldn't give away the whole plot. Obviously, we know what a Hallmark movie is, but they said that one of the main characters is the VP of development for the new stadium. So they actually, they're incorporating the current events of what's going on in Buffalo and the team as they're moving from not Hallmark Stadium, which is what was missaid quite a bit, Highmark Stadium, over to the new stadium.
Can you imagine they named the new stadium after Hallmark? Hallmark Stadium.
Whoa.
Over a movie. Dan, back to Hard Knocks, because I look back at all the teams that have been featured on Hard Knocks through the years, and I'll hear fans complain that there has never been a team that has won the Super Bowl after being featured on Hard Knocks. And just looking at the quarterbacks that have been on the teams featured on Hard Knocks through the years, it's few and far between where you have a good quarterback, let alone the reigning MVP. How much of Hard Knocks is going to be centered around Josh Allen, in your opinion?
I think quite a bit, but I think the beauty of Hard Knocks, like, I think you're going to get to see more, and I was joking around with on our podcast yesterday, like, joking around more, like, getting to see – I think people like Josh Allen. They like the way that he plays on the field. I don't think, unless you're really involved, you're around the team, invested in the team, to get to see, like, the golden retriever side of Josh Allen, like the fun-loving kid. Like, they call him just a big kid. I think that the audience, the NFL fans, will eat up even more, because you see Josh the competitor. You see the way that he handles things and does everything the right way, you know, kind of on the sidelines and things like that. I think they're really going to get to see, like, the more joking side of Josh, the jokes. You're going to get to see. I'm sure there'll be an episode about golf in Oak Hill.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be an episode about Catan and the board games that he plays. And, like, if there's one thing that I know about Josh Allen to be true, it's that he loves dorm room life. Like, he loves this stuff. And honestly, I know that because if he didn't want to do it, they probably wouldn't, because he's Josh Allen. And if they said, hey, Josh, you want to go to Fisher again this summer? And he goes, it just doesn't work for me. They wouldn't do it because he's Josh Allen. So, like, I think you're going to get to see, like, that cool aspect of seeing a pro athlete, the MVP of the league, be that kid that you know, you grow up and you're like, he still has that side of him. So I think that'll be cool to see. But the beauty of Hard Knocks is they really dive into those fringe guys, the guys that the stories that tug at your heartstrings, like things like that, you know, whether it's going to be a Ray Davis kind of feature. We were joking around with Reed. Maybe it's more about Dalton Kincaid. We get to know more about him, who's been pretty quiet. Will there be more about DeMar Hamlin? Buffalo Joe, I'm sure, will get an episode. Like, those kind of stories, I think, are what really drive it, but it'll be cool to see the MVP behind the scenes more than we've ever seen.
So let me throw this at you, Dan, because everything you're saying, I can't say won't happen, but you were at training camp. We were all at training camp. But didn't it feel to you like last year at training camp, Josh Allen came in with a little bit less of the golden retriever and a little bit more of a sense of urgency and attitude, a desire? He just came in a little bit. He felt like he was a little bit more serious, and you know what I mean, with the hood up and like he was all business. Is that aside? Because I worry that if all they showcase is playful board game playing Josh Allen, that could work to his detriment, and that you'd rather see a competitor, a true competitor, get after his guys, you know, on the field and play with a little bit of intensity during a practice so that everybody sees, oh, no, he really is as competitive as we hear he is.
Yeah, and that'll come out. And listen, I think last year it is different circumstances. And that was kind of what I wanted to ask Reed about, was that, like, is this going to be a distraction? And he kind of, like, if there's one thing, this locker room, this coaching staff, this front office, like, is pretty well aligned, and they're secure, and there's no big question marks. The James Cook thing, it'll be interesting to see how that kind of gets molded. But listen, last year there were questions around, you don't have Stephon Diggs, you don't have a wide receiver, how is this going to work? And Josh brought that, hey, we got to go to work. Like, yep, we don't have Diggs, so what? Let's go to work. I think he's proven. I remember last year coming on here being like, we had the debate on the Buffalo Post podcast, like, is Josh an alpha? Like, does he have that Brady in him to rip apart his teammates in the correct way and be the true leader of the team? And he showed all of that. Josh Allen's the MVP not because of his numbers, but because of what he did with the things that he had around him. But I always think that everybody we've talked to, in the building, outside the building, teammates, all those things, like, he's the same way that he is on the field as he is off the field. And it's the fact that he's a quarterback. And it was like day one. I remember, like, Marquez Valdez-Scantling last year talking about, like, he hangs out with everybody. Like, He goes, I've been around a lot of quarterbacks, and that's not the case. So I don't think that side changed of him. I think Josh definitely came into training camp last year with something to prove without Diggs. Like, fine, we can do it without him. And he showed that. So I still think that Josh is still that same jokester at heart. You think about the play, him throwing the touchdown to himself, or I still think about how the joking that he was in that last game against New England in the regular season, where he took one snap and then ran off the field and jumped into his teammates' arms. Job well done. I still think he has that playful side. I don't think maybe it was the focus as much last year because there were so many other questions.
Dan, I think that, we know what to expect out of Josh Allen. What do we expect out of Sean McDermott? I mean, we've seen a more playful Sean McDermott, going back to him goofing on you at the combine there with Mike in the background, or the Snow Angels. But I've always wondered, when he's at the podium, who is he really? Is this him talking, or is he still the guy who minored in theater and he's playing the role of a football coach, and this is how football coaches talk? I want to see what he's like when, the cameras are going to be on, but maybe he forgets that they're on. And, furthermore, how does he release guys? To me, McDermott is the one thing I'm tuning in for.
Yeah. Well, I'll also say this. Sean's in the movie, and apparently he's a phenomenal actor. That was what they said. So we'll put that out there. I'll also say this. We have always joked around on the channel that there are two Sean McDermotts. There is off-season Sean and there is in-season Sean. And sometimes for the first week of training camp, it's still off-season Sean, and you'll still get some jokes and all those things. And then you will know the exact time it changes. When the press conferences get way more serious and there's no more joking and there's no side stories or anything like that. I think it's once he has his second vanilla milkshake from Pittsburgh Dairy that it fully switches into football mode. But like I said, at the combine, he's joking around. And we have seen that in breaking news to fans out there that want him fired. He's not going to get fired anytime soon. So he feels, I think, more than ever comfortable in who he is as a coach. When you've won as many games as he has and you've built the resume that he has, yes, there are things missing on it. There's no doubt. And there are blemishes, no question. But Sean is very secure. And you've seen him start to kind of embody the team. And you always hear great coaches. And I know it's more in other sports, but you hear about a lot in baseball and hockey. At some point, if you're a great coach and you have a great team, the players run the team. And the coaches just kind of oversee it. And so I think with whether it's the leadership council or the way that this team has been constructed by Bean, Sean has been able to kind of take a step back. I mean that in a positive way. We talk about, he has dad joke Fridays now with the guys. He's wearing Jordans. He's wearing flat brim hats. You're starting to see a little bit more of Sean's personality come out. And I think that comes with him being comfortable time and time again. He's doing more podcast appearances. Who knows? He may end up on Mike's patio this training camp. This kind of guy, I think you get to see. And I'm with you. There is a different side of Sean that people don't see at post-game podium press conferences. You forget that he's a human being and he's a dad and things like that. And you get to see that, and we get to see that in the media in glimpses and things like that. So I think that'll be even cooler for fans, especially of Buffalo, to get to see their coach is a normal person too on top of it.
Dan, I'm curious about now I lost my train of thought where I was going to go. I know what I was going to go next. I'm curious to see what the Bills do in this upcoming season in terms of their play calling on short yardage situations.
Yeah.
Terry Pagula voted for the proposal to ban the tush push, even though the Bills were probably the second most successful team to run that play behind Philadelphia. Do you think they abandon the play? Is there, to hear Sean McDermott talk about the injury risk that we're still looking for associated with the play, do you think they go back to a more traditional quarterback sneak in those roles, in those situations? What's your thoughts? I know the tush push is probably like a dead horse at this point, and it can come or go, and it doesn't matter. But I do think it does matter within a game when you have a short yardage situation and it's a successful play that you've run for some time.
Yeah, we've always been confused here, just saying it's such an advantage that you have a Buffalo as a quarterback in Buffalo. And like I said, there are other teams that don't run it because they can't. Baltimore doesn't run it. Cincinnati doesn't run it. Green Bay doesn't run it. You have Josh Allen as a weapon for those short yardage situations. and I know Sean has been a proponent of banning it, tushes will still be pushed in 2025, and I imagine Josh's tush will be one of them. Like, now, Sean is – the one thing that Sean made very clear at the Combine is that they run a kind of the tush push. They don't run the exact thing that Philly does. They run a variation off of it, and whether or not that's what Sean wanted to see banned or taken out of the game, I don't know. I still think that when it comes down to it, obviously there's the player safety aspect to it, which I think is total baloney, and the fact of if the NFL wanted to come out and say, hey, look, guess what, guys? It's not a very appealing play to the eyes. That's why we want it banned. I would have been in favor of it. But when you're sitting there trying to find injury data that isn't there, I think it's a really poor way of trying to get something banned, and to try and use the veil of player safety to me is cowardly, because there's just no data that shows the injury risk is high on that play. So when push comes to shove, no pun intended, I think the Bills will still run the play because they want to get first downs and they want to win. And within the guidelines of the rules, and if they're not, especially if they're saying there's no data that shows that Josh gets hurt on that play, because Josh historically has gotten injured more likely outside the pocket than he has been getting shoved in the middle of it, I think the Bills will still run the play.
Yeah, Dan Fates, Buffalo Plus 13 Wham, our guest here. Next Tuesday, so coming off the Memorial Day weekend, we get Phase 3 of OTAs for the Buffalo Bills, which, again, they're not mandatory, but it looks a little more like football with 7-on-7, 11-on-11. Are we expecting to hear from anybody next week here, Dan, in advance of the June mandatory minicamp?
I think we'll probably hear from Josh, just the way that he's so open and talks with the media. I expect we'll hear something from him, but I'm not sure about what else we'll really know. I know that the first question I can already say will be to Sean McDermott will be, is everybody here? And then the follow-up question will be like, is James here? Things like that. And they will say they love Jimbo and that this is all just business and it'll all get worked out. And Sean will say that he's not concerned about it. So I know how that's going to go. As for the rest, I don't expect to hear too much else.
Dan, what about the length of training camp at St. John Fisher? Does that change at all with Hard Knocks coming in?
I don't think so. I think it'll probably be from what we're hearing. Buffalo Plus had this story quite a while ago that camp was coming back to Fisher for its 25th, 23rd since 2020. Obviously, the COVID years interfered with that a little bit, but I think it's expected. The dates haven't been officially announced, but we're hearing kind of the same thing. There'll probably be 12 to 13 practices, 10 of them open to the public with tickets, and it should be around the same schedule of late July to the first and a half week of August.
Yeah, the Bears today, for their second preseason game against Buffalo, announcing joint practices with the Bills, which – Dan, it's hard for me to imagine two teams signing up, the Bills signing up for joint practices. I don't know if we'll ever see that again here in Buffalo, where we had the Browns coming in a couple of times.
Yeah, last year they did it in Pittsburgh. That was the day that we found out that Milano was out with the torn pec. That was right before the last preseason game and before the Buffalo Joe really hit its peak of hype. So I think the Bills like it. They have to do it with teams that they feel comfortable with. It's a little interesting that it's a first-year head coach in Ben Johnson that they're going to do this with, because there has to be some level of trust that these practices aren't going to get out of hand. And obviously McDermott and Tomlin having their relationship. I don't know if you know this. They both played. They were college teammates. Were you guys aware of that?
Hold on a
He
second.
also wrestled. There it is.
Thanks,
Breaking
Dan.
news.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. So I'm a little bit surprised that's with the Bears, but I think they obviously liked what they saw. It was a good showcase for a guy like, Joe Andreessen and some of those guys to get more live reps in a practice setting.
Long holiday weekend in front of us, Dan. Let's get there. We know that you're pumping out a lot of content at Buffalo Plus. What can our listeners check out?
Yeah, favorite podcast of the year just came out. We talked about Hard Knocks. We talked about the pushing of tushes. And then Jenna and I had our travel draft where we pick the road games that we will be attending. People always ask, how do you guys know which game you're going to? Jenna and I have a draft. So we drafted the road games and which ones we're going to. And then each week we picked the games, and the loser had to do a punishment. The winner got to pick the punishment for the loser. So Jenna won. she made Mike, who came in last, do a Pilates and bar class.
Oh.
So that was Pilates punishment / torture. I didn't want to put torture in the YouTube title because I didn't know how that would run through the algorithm. So I went with punishment, but that is must see. If you guys listen to the audio podcast, Buffalo Plus, you can't see it there. So you got to go to the YouTube channel. So that it's a pretty good podcast of seeing, and I obviously joined in because I wasn't going to let Kat do it all by himself. We're a team here. So Jenna got to make fun of us.
I'm curious about what road games you drafted, Dan.
So Jenna had the first overall pick.
Yeah.
I was very concerned. Also, weak draft class this year. Weak draft class.
Not a lot of travel. No, you're not far. You're not going farther west than Houston.
I'm going to guess Jenna would take Miami. Yeah, she's taking Miami in November.
Wedding conflict. Not hers, but there was a wedding conflict. So I knew Miami. We went through a little, not a back alley deal, but I said, are there any obligations that would interfere with games? So I was able to steal Miami in the third round.
Nice for it. Good.
Jenna had the first overall pick. She gave me the first overall pick, and I got to take Atlanta because hopefully there could be some playoff baseball in Atlanta, and that would be a twofer. So, yes, that was Jenna is a very, very kind person, a best friend of mine, obviously. So I got to get Atlanta. Her first pick was Carolina. She had never been to Carolina, was looking forward to going to Carolina for that game.
Jean's face just went kind of cold.
No, it's you know what? It's cute. They're 500. They're gonna get Acuna back.
This is bad.
This
you
is
shouldn't.
not-
You shouldn't.
No.
Gene, you
Gene
shouldn't.
Gene, has Soto swung his bat yet, or is he just fully checked out? Is he still? Oh, wait, he just took another pitch.
If it weren't for the numbers on the contract, nobody would be saying anything. He's elevating. I was going to ask you about the Amex.
Yeah.
You know what? We went
Yeah,
on this
and
detour.
if my grandma had wheels, she'd be a bike. Like, what are you talking about here? The dude's not swinging the bat. Doesn't want to celebrate. Doesn't want. He looks unhappy.
Danger.
He looks unhappy.
Danger. Will you step in here? I was critical after he didn't run out not one but two ground balls. That doesn't play anywhere, in particular in New York, Dan.
That's true.
I'm not displaying Misfidian behavior, Dan.
That's true. A little bit just now by saying here, that's cute. You're almost to 500. You didn't need to bring that up right now. It is a long season. After
Well,
that.
I mean, that's a jump there, like 500
He's-
postseason.
Yeah. It's hard to run with all that money in your pocket, though. Like, I'm not expecting him to run down the first baseline. I am expecting Juan Soto to swing the bat and seem remotely interested in playing a game.
All right, before you leave us, we don't want to leave on that note. Quickly on the Amex.
Yeah. I thought they played well last night. I really did. I thought like they give up a goal 15 seconds in, very unfortunate. But I thought after that they really weathered the storm. They talked about the first 10 minutes of a road game, kind of handling the tsunami of emotions and all that stuff. I thought they did well. They scored the goal. I thought that was a turning point. Rusek with a beautiful goal. Levi didn't play great. Like, it sucks to say, but like that wasn't his best game. The Amerks have been really good at bouncing back, playing desperate. I think about how they responded from game 1 to game 2. I'd like to think Levi would be better in game 4. But again, you expect a desperate team. And I always remember Seth Appert saying it is very tough to end a team season. And going back to last year, I know it's a different team. I know it's a different coach. The Amerks were down in this series in Syracuse in game 4. They were down 2-1 in the series and down 3-0 going into the third period and came back and won the game. This team has done it before. It's a desperate style. Laval's very good, but I'm expecting the Amerks to summon something because I thought they really did control the game. They outshot them. I'm expecting a very entertaining game on Friday.
Making note of this, when Dan goes to Atlanta in October.
I tried to bring. Don't bring it back up.
All right, Dan, thank you for the time. Thank you for the time today.
Dan, appreciate you, man. Enjoy the long weekend, bud.
I felt so much snark there. So snarky.
You can just sense it. He can sense it. That's what I'm talking about, Gene. That's the Misfidian
there's
behavior that I'm
nothing.
talking. I'm
saying-
trying to, trying to reform you. This is your team. What are they? 10 games above 500. So that's great.
They get the Dodgers.
They're no longer in first place, so there's been a little bit of a slide. They've got a tougher schedule than what they had first month of the year.
If you can take 2 or 3 from the Dodgers, that would be fantastic.
They didn't get swept by the Red Sox, so there's that.
Thank you, Dan.
Ken Fates, 13 win, Buffalo Plus. Stopping by, sharing his thoughts. Hey, I'm not going to count out the Braves. The Braves could make the postseason. He could be at a postseason game.
Look, the Mets were down and out this time last year.
That's right.
How many games below 500 were there?
That's right. I'm not going to count them out.
The Braves are in Washington tonight. Ugh, Washington.
It'd be a lot of fun for Fatesy to go to some playoff baseball and then cover the Bills on Monday Night Football in Atlanta. I like that. Don Stevens, speaking of the Amerks, the voice of the Amerks, will be stopping by the sports bar next hour. We'll get his thoughts on the Game 3 loss and a little preview of what's ahead tomorrow night from Laval. Coming up next in the sports bar, we haven't touched on this yet. College football has made a change to their postseason.
I think it's a pretty big one. Like right now, it's like, oh yeah, but when this comes back around, I think they're doing this for a reason. I'll explain what my thoughts on this.
Right, we'll get into that and more on the passing of Colts owner Jim Irsay.
Yeah, where like something in his obituary that people are writing, like, oh, I did not know this. Kind of an interesting part of him, and I guess it's actually kind of relatable to a lot of people.
We'll get to that, and Don Stevens of the Rochester Americans, the voice of the Rochester Americans, stopping by in the 4 o'clock hour next on The Fan Rochester.
WABF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Laval scoring 3 times on 5 shots in the third period. That's the difference in game number 3. Emmerich now facing elimination. Emmerich's head coach Mike Leone on a guy that we're all going to be looking at, goaltender Devin Levi.
Dev, I know he's got more. I know he's got more to give. He's been a horse for us all season. We believe in him. We're going to need him to be really good Friday night. He's got to respond in a big way, and I know he will, and he'll be ready to go.
Don Stevens will join us later this hour here in the Sports Bar. We'll have Game 4 for you tomorrow night here on The Fan. Game 2 tonight in the NBA, Minnesota and Oklahoma City. Yankees today beating the Rangers 1-0. Carlos Rodon, solid. 6 innings, allowing only 2 hits. Tied at 4 in the 8th, it's the Jays and the Padres. Red Wings tonight playing in Syracuse. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
In Hard Knocks during training camp.
Mike Danger.
You can't dispute. This is a good look for Rochester. This is a great opportunity for our community to be showcased on a bigger stage.
Gene Battaglia.
For Hard Knocks itself, have they ever featured a team that some would consider being a Super Bowl favorite?
Laval 4, Rochester 1, as the Rocket regain the lead in the series 2-1.
I've got Jim Irsay in my head and in my heart today.
Picked off by Kair Illich.
The energy here is something I've never been a part of.
Pacers done the Knicks 138-135 in overtime.
We'll look ahead to Thunder T-Wolves tonight.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has won the MVP.
He scores! It is raining power play goals at American Airlines Center, and Dallas has taken the lead.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Oh, yeah, when we were talking about collapses last hour, I forgot to mention the Oilers absolutely collapsing in the third period of Game 1, and Dallas getting that Game 1 win in their Western Conference final there in the Stanley Cup playoffs, as well as we welcome you back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. We're glad you're with us. I hate when people do this, but I'm going to do it anyways. Today's our Friday, so we got a long holiday weekend in front of us, and we got a lot of action to get to. Something that we haven't yet talked about this afternoon, but I think this is a significant story in the world of college football. I want to congratulate college football for winning the race against the NFL on making division or conference titles meaningless, because today's news is that straight seeding will take place in the college football playoff starting in 2025, where the top 4 seeds will still get first-round byes regardless if they won a conference title or not. Conference champions still get the automatic bid, but they're going to be seeded based on ranking. This is the final year of the 12-team playoff as well. 2026 will see expansion to either 14 or 16 teams. Now, what does this mean? Well, look back to 2024. If straight seeding was in place last year, the biggest difference you would have seen is Texas and Penn State receiving first-round byes, with Boise State dropping from 3 to the 9 seed, Arizona State dropping from the 4 seed to the 11 seed. And Gino, all I could think is that I wish the government protected my interests like college football protects 3-loss SEC teams, because this is great if you're a 3-loss SEC team.
Well, who's in power right now? It's the SEC and it's the Big Ten, and everybody else fall in line. And the Big 12, well, Boise would have been the loser in all this last year. It's also the NCAA and their TV partners recognizing, hey, we had this little cottage industry of, in between games we can have some debate. Remember, they would release the rankings on a Tuesday night, and then everybody would all discuss it, and I can't believe. Well, now it just kind of reframed. All right, who should get the bye? Should it be a 2-loss team from the SEC, or should it be the undefeated Clemson Tigers?
We need to bring that tradition back to college football.
Right, that's all this is. I'm like, oh my gosh, we can't get rid of this once and for all.
I will say, though, this feels like common sense. This feels like it makes sense. It doesn't do much for the conference championship games, except those aren't going away. They generate too much money. But winning the conference championship might get you an automatic bid if you win, but it's not going to help necessarily in your seeding.
Well, then what's to say that the say the Big Ten championship. Hey, we already know. Does it matter if we're the we're not going to, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, you could end up with like an NFL scenario in some of these conference championships where, like, hey, you've got 2 losses, I've got 2 losses. You know what? Doesn't matter. We're gonna just kind of play less of our guys. I don't know. I'm thinking this through. Maybe that's not a valid argument.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think it'll be interesting. Ultimately, we're going to see a lot of the same teams in the playoff year in and year out because of the world that we live in now. It's about who can fund the best roster of players, and a lot of the bigger schools will be perennial college football playoff teams.
Well, eventually, you're right. It's going to get to 16 teams,
yep.
And this will all be moot. Who gets the bye? Like, okay, well, there won't be a bye when we get to 16 teams.
Yep.
Jim Irsay passing, and look, I don't think it's the day where we talk about some of the weird things that Jim Irsay did over the years, because we said, okay, the guy was he had his demons going.
He was a character. He was unique. He was original.
I remember we were all getting introduced to this Zoom virtual world where he sat on a throne.
Yeah, the big wooden. It wasn't an office chair. It was a throne. It was a big, like, hand-carved wooden throne. I don't know what else to call it. It certainly wasn't like your standard office chair that you would see somebody sitting in.
So reading some of the, because it's a complex story, right? Like, somebody who, look, he's privileged. Some of these owners, like Terry Pegula, self-made billionaire, all right? Jim Irsay was born into this, okay? His father, Bob Irsay, owned the Baltimore Colts, moved the team to Indianapolis. Bob Irsay actually died younger, in his 50s, than Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay then kind of takes over as a young man, and you know what? He deserves a lot of credit. On the positive side, he's one of the ones that actually formulated the salary cap. Way back when with Paul Tagliabue. He was on the task force for that. I didn't know this, too, as a lot of people have pointed this out in their remembrances. Did you know, Danger, he has this massive, massive collection of music memorabilia? Name the artist. He's probably got their guitar. Morrison, Hendrix, the Beatles. He's got one, actually, from your guy Prince, too.
From the Super Bowl that they won in Miami?
Maybe that's the one.
Yeah.
Guitar Magazine called his collection the greatest on earth. I wonder just who gets this stuff. JimIrsayCollection.com, by the way, if you want to go look at this stuff. It's all there. So, yeah, here's the story is, young man grew into this, had his demons. Okay. Matthew Pegula is a character we don't talk about. The son of Terry Pegula. He was there for the introductory, hey, we're the new owners there, and I remember him kind of walking around, and I've heard stories of Matthew Pegula hanging out in the pro personnel office there, or the draft room of the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if he wants to go that direction, but when we're looking into the future, I don't know. I just like, well, how will he carve his own, or will we just be on a yacht somewhere?
Well, it's interesting. You know that Irsay's daughters are going to be involved in the future of the Colts, and they're already involved. I mean, you've seen one of his daughters, like, wearing the headset. She's on the sideline. She's, like, monitoring things, and she's immersed in what's going on with that team and how it's run, and almost as if she was being groomed for this, knowing that her dad in the last couple of years was a little bit – his health was questionable. He was in a rough spot. We don't know the specifics of it, and we're not going to speculate. But at what point do we start to see more of the Pegula kids kind of filling that void that was left when Kim fell ill, knowing that Terry's running things right now, and he's got good people running things? We believe Pete Gwelly's doing a great job, as Pegula's business guy, right? Like, he's running the business. But what about the kids? When are the kids, if the kids get involved, when will we see more of them, including Matthew Pegula, who you mentioned? But the daughters, we've seen the daughters at Sabres press conferences.
Yeah, and
Jess is still playing.
Jess is still playing, and Jess, in that, the only thing we ever learned what happened to Kim was through Jess, and apparently, that was frowned upon, that putting that out there like that. So I guess it's not a Matthew Pegula take, but like Succession, I haven't seen, people swear by that show, Danger. I'll add it to my list. I don't think the thing that turned me off. I watched the first 2 episodes. I'm like, oh my gosh, these are horrible people. I don't want to watch this anymore.
Is it based on NFL owners? Is that what it's based on? You're saying horrible people.
It was kind of on the Murdoch family, I guess, from what I heard. Whatever. But like whatever it was, but yeah, NFL owner succession. Like, also good on Jim Irsay that if his daughters actually do get to run the team, because the estate tax is just so unbelievable that you have to do all sorts of advanced planning, when it comes to that. And if you have any little bit of infighting, look what happened to the Denver Broncos. You can't. The kids couldn't agree on it, so okay, then it's going up for sale.
I don't have it right in front of me, so I apologize. But I want to say that one of the 3 daughters is like more involved, and then the other 2 daughters are like co-COOs within the organization already. So the Irsay family will, by all accounts, nothing has been made official by the Colts, but by all accounts will continue to operate the Colts once they get through this grieving period of losing their father. I'm sure we'll hear more about what the future ownership of the Indianapolis Colts looks like.
Yeah, and to draw another analogy, the Colts played in a dumpy old dome. Peyton Manning comes along.
Yeah.
And like he got that stadium.
Josh Allen should put his name on New Highmark. I mean, like, it's amazing what a franchise quarterback can do for an organization. You can't screw it up. You cannot screw up on quarterback. If you get it right, it's everything. If you get it wrong, it sets you back. And the Bills are feeling a lot now like what the Colts were feeling back then. And the Colts only got to 2 Super Bowls with Peyton Manning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they only won 1 of them. Can we get to 1 with Josh Allen? I mean, that would be a nice place for us to start.
Part of the obit on Jim Irsay, he's the guy who cut Peyton Manning, which you hear that now, you're like, you're kidding. How could you do such a thing? It was the right call.
Yeah.
It was absolutely the right call.
It was ugly because it was unimaginable. How could you get rid of Peyton Manning? He is Mr. Indianapolis Colts. And I don't know if Irsay knew that the pot of gold at the end of that rainbow was going to lead to Andrew Luck.
Well, no, that's the reason why. They already knew they had the number 1 overall pick. So do you want to keep Peyton Manning and draft Andrew Luck, or
because they had the bad season with Manning out, right?
Right. So couple thoughts on this. One, the story with Bill Polian is this, that Bill Polian was not about drafting Andrew Luck. He was going to shop around and get the biggest deal because Peyton Manning's my guy. Irsay brings him in. You're fired. We're not doing that. Okay. So, and then Peyton Manning, when Bill Polian calls him up, I just got fired. Peyton Manning knew, all right, even though he hadn't been told yet, that he was toast. But you look back at it now, Andrew Luck, that career.
Well, the Peyton Manning story is he goes on and wins a Super Bowl in Denver. So he still had something. He wasn't the same in Denver as he was in Indianapolis, and you had a pretty good defense in Denver as well, anchored by Von Miller. You win that Super Bowl and ride off into the sunset. So he still had football left in him, but it wouldn't have been the same Peyton Manning that the Indianapolis fans grew to love through his time in Indy, and I think Irsay did have that foresight. The Andrew Luck early retirement, there's a lot of questions you could have. Like, did Luck not like playing for the Colts? Did he value his long-term health? I mean, if you believe him at his word, this was about him wanting to be able to enjoy his life and not have to take the beating and the punishment that an NFL player has to take. And now he's still in the game with Stanford, right? He's like the GM of
football GM.
Yeah, he's the GM of Stanford football. So, I'm sure he likes that role because he's not taking a beating. I mean, he would still be playing right now. Andrew Luck would still be playing football.
Isn't that crazy to think? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he really retired prematurely, but did what he felt was right. And I don't know, was there ever any reports of friction between Luck and the organization? I don't know that I remember hearing that.
The thing that made it wonky was that it happened right in the middle of training camp. It was right in the middle of the preseason, in the middle of August. Normally, hey, you really hung your team by doing that.
Yeah, left a lot of fans hanging on that one, and I know there were a lot of Indy fans that really were upset at how the Andrew Luck era ended for the Indianapolis Colts, and they haven't really recovered since then. I mean, they haven't really gotten. You had a couple of years with Phillip Rivers, but that was
it's all been patchwork. And
they don't have their guy. No. They thought they maybe had their guy with Anthony Richardson. And maybe they still do. I'm skeptical of that, and I don't think Daniel Jones is the long-term solution as well. I think it'll be entertaining to see Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson in a quarterback battle this training camp. But do you have confidence that either of those quarterbacks are the guys that are going to lead that team into the future?
Well, I always thought that Jim Irsay would have been the guy that ultimately he makes that decision who would have been the quarterback. And when you knew he wasn't doing well with the whole Richardson kind of comments last year, you're always welcome to join us, especially if you got something to add here. Brad in Rochester at 866-4FAN. Hey, Brad.
Hey, the one thing about Andrew Luck is that he is kind of, if you look at the parallel, it's kind of like Tua right now, where they didn't put enough around him to keep him healthy. That was the biggest thing that I see. He was beaten up like you wouldn't believe, and they wouldn't get him an offensive line. The other thing that Irsay has done is he's got the combine pretty much on lockdown in Indianapolis by setting it up so everything is perfect for him. For the NFL, they're doing the medical and everything else for facilities going from there.
That is interesting. Yeah, thanks, Brad. I guess that's also part of this, too, that the combine, to give Irsay some credit here. And I've always wondered, why hasn't the NFL done kind of the road show that they do for the NFL draft? And probably it's because, well, number one, fans aren't going to travel for the combine, so what does it really matter? You're not getting those tourism dollars. But from everything I hear, name a better convention city than Indianapolis.
No, it's built for it. Yeah. It's built for the NFL Combine. I mean, maybe New Orleans, but I don't think you have what Indianapolis has built in. And you're right. This isn't like a fan festival. This is a festival of GMs and players and owners, and it's an NFL convention for NFL employees.
Yeah.
And you don't have to move it. You don't have to, break it if it doesn't need. You don't have to fix something that isn't broken. I don't know that the combine is broken, and Irsay and that new stadium I think have been great for the combine. Thanks for the call, Brad. Appreciate it. Don Stevens is north of the border. Called the game last night. Game 3 loss for the Amerks in Laval. We'll get him on with us next to get his thoughts on the Amerks here with their backs against the wall, facing elimination in tomorrow night's game. A preview of Friday night from Laval coming up from the Hall of Famer, the voice of the Rochester Americans, Don Stevens, next on The Fan.
You're listening
For the first time this postseason, the Rochester Americans facing elimination. This after the Game 3 loss up in Laval. Head coach Mike Leone focusing on the positives.
Honestly, I really like how our team played. To me, it wasn't a 4-1 hockey game. They made a nice play on the goal and got a little momentum in that 5-minute segment. But I really liked a lot of the things we did. Now, our backs up against the wall. We're going to need the same effort. But I thought we did a lot of really good things.
Game 4 tomorrow night here on The Fan. We will talk to the voice of the Rochester Americans, the Hall of Famer Don Stevens, scheduled to join us next year. Game 2 in the NBA tonight in the Western Conference Finals, Minnesota and Oklahoma City. Knicks and Pacers are tomorrow night. The Yankees beating the Texas Rangers today, 1-0. Carlos Rodon, 2 hits in 6 innings. Jays and Padres tied at 5 in the 11th. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
I think if you look at the great A's that we had, Helly probably had 3 in the slot. Wally had 2 in the first period. I think if you look at the chances, it's probably 2-1. We just didn't execute on the plays. They did a really good job. Their goalie played really good. We just got the ones in the slot that got to go under the bar. But we had a lot of good looks that just missed the net, really good screens. Mets hit a post. Cozy hit a post. We did a lot of really good things. It just didn't go in back of the net, and that happens sometimes.
There's Amerks head coach Mike Leone. Lots of chances for the Amerks last night, ultimately falling short in Laval. Game 3 goes to the Rocket, and the Amerks now find themselves facing elimination in tomorrow night's game, Game 4, here on the Fan Rochester just after 7 o'clock.
It's not a surprise that Laval had a better effort defensively because the Montreal Gazette, you're just reading that and I'm like, okay, what's the chatter around Laval? They come back having split. The chatter was, hey, this is a team that actually statistically had the best defense in the American Hockey League, the most points. They gave up 9 goals in 2 games. How do we get better at that?
Right, that's unrealistic for there. That's
right.
Out of character for that team. And now the Amerks, like I said, facing elimination. Captain Mason Jobst on where they are here heading into Game 4.
I think there's always a bit more desperation. Obviously, next game season's on the line. This group loves each other, really enjoys spending time together. I think when there's a threat that is potentially going to end, you get a little bit extra. We all want to continue to play together. It's a great group of guys, and we're just worried about winning one game.
Is that a real experience, though? Truly, actually having been in elimination games, does it help having experienced that going into this Friday?
Yeah, I think so. I think most of us have probably experienced playoffs to some degree of and being in these types of situations. I think as a core group, we've been here before, so those previous experiences, they should help a little bit.
A handful of players, of course, have had this happen in years past. We've seen them fight off elimination. We've seen them get eliminated. We'll see what happens Friday night.
Pet peeve of mine, it's not just a hockey thing, but the new LED lighting when your team doesn't score and the lights go on and off and it's like a big old dance party. And
just happy that the pet peeve wasn't directed at me, because when you have a pet peeve, you're hardcore on your pet peeves.
What? I never. What, dude,
thank God it's not directed at me.
What are my danger complaints?
I hope. I don't know. I thought it was something I said. I thought it was something I
my
did.
danger complaints, like you hit the Mets music only when you object, not when they're winning. Okay, not when they're winning.
Sorry, you were saying about the LED lighting.
When your team loses, there's just or a goal against, like woo woo. It's super annoying. I guess bring me back to it's a very old man take. I know.
What do you mean? So if you're the home team and you score the goal and you do the celebration and everything goes crazy, the goal horn and everything, you're against that?
No, I'm fine. What they do in Laval in a lot of places, the lights go off and they start flashing.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, or hey, the Yankees just hit a home run.
Yeah,
and your team is
yeah.
placing, and all of a sudden, blink, blink,
the
blink,
lights
blink,
are
blink.
flashing. They'll flash the lights when they bring in Weaver now. I mean, it's become like a thing throughout arenas and stadiums everywhere with the new LED lighting. That's funny. Gene has a problem with the flashing lights. I thought for a second there that the issue was the actual celebration. If a team scores a goal, let them celebrate. By the way, last night also we talk about the collapses that we saw in the NBA with the Knicks And certainly the Amerks, after tying it in the third, giving up 3 goals in the third to Laval to fall 4-1. Can't forget about the Dallas Stars coming back on the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, if the Oilers, who played really well 2/3 of that game, can dust themselves up, we'll have a series. But, man, Dallas pouring it on, 3 power play goals in the third period last night, Game 1, the Western Conference final there in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, that's gosh, this is weird. As you're talking, I'm texting with Don. Has this ever happened before? Where here it is. This has to be Don.
Oh, we'll see if that's Don. If we get Don Stevens on with us here, is that Don? Don, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Don.
It is Don. Don, it was just going straight into the voicemail every time I called.
I don't know if it has something to do with international calling or what it might be.
It might be you're sick of talking to us. You just blocked us. Like, hey, I don't want to.
We're not ready for the season to end yet, Don. I don't know how you feel, but we're not ready.
No, I'm not either.
Don, certainly felt like a playoff game last night. When Ruchek scores that tying goal, you're thinking, here we go. And just, you know what you're dealing with in a team like Laval, that they came that quick there to take that game right after that Ruchek goal.
They're such a strong team. But I thought really when we scored that goal, it was going to be enough to carry us over, get a late goal in the third period or something and sneak it out of there. But, yeah, they came on extremely strong. We had a few bad bounces, and it just didn't turn out so good.
Mike Leone has been consistent with his messaging throughout the course of this season. The team has the loss, and a lot of times, and he's not wrong, he likes the way the team played, and it really comes down to a bounce here and a little bit of luck, a goalie who made some saves that maybe he normally doesn't make. But what was your take after hearing Mike Leone after the loss last night, and a very positive kind of outlook here heading into Game 4?
Well, I don't know how you can be anything but positive because it's a pretty good team. I mean, they do so many things great. But I didn't hear what he had to say. But they played well. There are spurts where they really play well, but there's times that Laval really plays very well themselves. And to try and cover up those, if you just got one little thing out of position, it's a mistake perhaps that ends up in your net, and that's the way it was. And last night that was the case.
Yeah, we're talking to the Hall of Fame voice of the Rochester Americans, Don Stevens. Game 4, we do know, is going to be tomorrow night here on The Fan. And quite often, I think, Don, it's unfair. It's an oversimplification just to say, okay, this is all on the goalie here. But with that being said, for Devin Levi, who, in my opinion, was kind of outplayed by Caden Primo last night, your thoughts on Levi and what the Amerks are going to need for him in Game 4 and hopefully Game 5?
Well, of course, he can't do it all himself, and he shouldn't be expected to do it all himself. But he has at times. That's maybe why we think of him being just so outstanding, and he is. But there was one goal. I thought the one that turned out to be the game-winning goal was one that he would want to have back. He just wasn't tight up against the pipe as the guy was going behind the net, and the backhander just inside the post. So I thought that one he should have had. But other than that, he's played well. But we got to do a better job of I think covering up in front of the net. Their forwards are they're pretty powerful. Some of their forwards, and we need to do a little bit better job on opening up so he can see the puck and see the shots better.
Don, Primo seems to have the Amerks number, not just this postseason where he's now 2-0 in this series, but also throughout the course of the season. He's had a great season in the AHL. We saw Fowler in Game 2, and we know that it's still a developmental league. Do you think they go back to Fowler tomorrow night?
Well, I don't know. We were talking about that. I kind of think that they consider Primo to be their number one, and so I think they would go with him. He's had the Amerks number, but you know what? He's had everybody's number. He only lost 2 games in regulation the whole season. Just an incredible record. Could be the best all-time yearly stats for a goaltender. So yeah, he's having a heck of a year. Didn't do very well when he was called up to Montreal, but the rest of the year he's been incredible.
Don, shame on me for tuning in late last night. Like, wait a second, this has already started. We're already down 1-0. What's going on here? what happened on that first goal? Like, is it just a missed defensive assignment? Like, certainly another key is you can't be allowing a goal first minute of the game, much less 15 seconds in.
It was just a shot from the point, and somebody got a stick on it and a tip. And, you can't do much about those. A tip that is just I don't know. I think they're really lucky, those kinds of shots. When you just barely get a touch on it, and for some reason it ends up being deflected right in the upper corner. I thought it was a very lucky goal and an untimely goal. And I kind of got to thinking, okay, well, that'll wake the team up. And actually, I think it did for 2 periods. There was no other scoring against Rochester for the 2 periods, and then they tied it up in the third. But I thought that first one was just a lucky break.
Who are you paying attention to in Game 4, Don, when you're calling the game and you're looking for an Amherst to step up and have themselves a game with everything on the line and the entire season on the line here? Who are your eyes gazed on?
Well, I was kind of hoping that Clegg would come up with a goal, especially at the end when the game was out of hand, to keep his string alive. He had a goal, and the defenseman had a goal in every game of the playoffs. So he had that long string going, but unfortunately, the Amherst couldn't put another one away. But I guess you look at the usual suspects. I like that line with Kulik and Roseyan and Rusek. I mean, that's a heck of a combination of talent right there. And Rusek got a beautiful goal. What a great shot he has, and I wish he'd use it a whole lot more. So you kind of look at that line, I think.
Don, last one for me, and this is the first time this postseason we're seeing the Amherst face elimination. Gosh, again, there were different guys on the team last year for sure, and a different head coach. But that game in Syracuse last year, you were there for, where they're down 3-0 and somehow pull the rabbit out of the hat. How do you think this group is going to respond to, hey, it'll all end tonight if you guys don't do your job?
Yeah, that's a good question. you got an easier question? So, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's just kind of going to be when you get rolling one way or the other. It seems like the momentum. Although you know what, there has been some momentum switches too in between these two teams. So I don't quite know what to feel right now about what's going to happen tomorrow night.
What'd you end up packing for the trip, Don? I want to know about your confidence level going into Laval. Did you pack for 3 games? Did you pack for 2? What was your plan?
Well, the question was, do we pack for 4 days or 15? I packed for kind of in the middle, figuring that I've got everything I'm going to wear twice.
Okay.
Well, he's got only 2 shirts, Danger, so that's an unfair question.
Yeah, no, I got a little bit more than that. The bag was pretty full, I'm afraid.
Well, Don, we don't want tomorrow night to be the last game that we hear you on this season. Let's hope for an Amherst win here, and I know it might extend your stay in Laval, but we certainly want to see more Amherst hockey at Blue Cross Arena during this playoff run.
It should, and I really don't even want to say this or whatever, but I guess, should it be unfortunate, just wanted to say thanks to you guys for all your support this season. You've been outstanding as usual.
I will hear none of this, Don. All right, you will be on the show.
Yeah, save it, pal.
Tuesday, 5:45, talking about how you called this miraculous overtime game winner on Sunday afternoon.
I'm ready for it. Give me a call.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Don.
Safe travels. Don Stevens, the voice of the Amherst, the Hall of Famer.
What's he doing saying goodbye? No, I don't like the juju there, Don.
Save it, Don.
No.
Save it. We've got another series ahead of us. A couple series ahead of us. He'll be on the call tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Puck drop from Laval as the Amherst look to extend their season down 2-1 in the best of 5 against the Rocket.
I'm thinking they're going to get it done tomorrow night.
I think so, too.
In Game 5, okay, then your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, they always seem to respond after a down game. And I don't even think that last night was a down game. If you hear Coach Leone talk about it, he liked their game. But now how do they respond? This is head coach Mike Leone.
You've been through those situations a lot. I think we learned from tonight. And then, our season's on the line. I know we're going to play desperate hockey, and I fully expect our team to be ready to go from the puck drop. We just got to respond. They've done it all year, and great leadership in the room, and have a good practice tomorrow and be ready to go Friday night.
All right, so good practice today. Big response tomorrow night. Extend it to Game 5 Sunday afternoon here on the Fan.
As far as having a day in between, name me a worse place than Laval in the American Hockey. I mean, I can name a lot of them. Like, I wouldn't want to be in Belleville for a full week. No offense to those fine folks.
I mean, how far is Laval from Montreal?
It's a suburb.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going in. Yeah, you're in a big city. Yeah.
Not too bad. So just troll around the city a little bit while you got the time. Appreciate Don making time for us. And again, he'll be on the call tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Game 4 from Laval, with the Amerks looking to extend their season. We have some news from around the NFL to get to. We've got happy hour coming up in a couple few. We have time for your calls at 866-4FAN if you want to join us. And we have free tickets to see Brian Regan, who's coming to the Kodak Center next week. In fact, I think that show is Wednesday night, so last-minute tickets to see Brian Regan. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, you can get them at Ticketmaster.com. Or you can win them for free right now if you call or 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. 950, The Fan, Rochester.
I saw this bit of news cross my feed earlier today. This is kind of like a deeper cut for the Sabres, if you care. I know we talked about this on Friday from Blue Cross Arena. Hey, Michael Pekka might be out there. Do we bring Michael Pekka back to the organization?
Did the Rangers retain him? What's going on?
He's now with the Chicago Blackhawks as they made an announcement. Their new head coach, Plaschel, and Pekka will be going to coach in Chicago.
Oh, speaking of Chicago, too, we should pass this on. It's really the only one Bills-related note that's new today. The Bills will be going to the Windy City for joint practices with the Bears, as that's the second preseason game. You're always welcome to join us at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Vincent. What's up, Vincent? How are you today?
Hey, I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
I was just calling because talk about the division format or the playoffs. Real quick, I think I have the perfect solution. Basically, this is all stems from the fact that we have the NFC South and the AFC South. So why don't we just combine those two divisions and get one playoff team from those? I think that would solve everything. It's always those two divisions that have the worst team winning a division. So why bother? Like, they should be relegated, in my opinion. But no one really respects any teams from the South. Like, it's its own thing. You're like, well, any team that comes out of those, they'll win one playoff game max, and that's about it.
Appreciate it, Vince.
Thanks, Vince.
I'll say this. In the South, where those teams reside, whether you're talking Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans, college football is bigger. It's SEC country.
So
Jacksonville.
Does that mean that whatever we do, we're not getting – it's just kind of a weird thing. And the quarterbacks in the NFL today, when Tom Brady was in that division, they won a Super Bowl.
That's right. I think that every division can be up or down. The West was down for a while. The NFC West was certainly down.
The AFC South is garbage. It's hot garbage. Oh, but Houston, okay. The Houston Texans, the official team of the Saturday afternoon wild card game. How many years in a row? Like, oh, okay, yeah, this is the team. Well, you got a home game. Maybe that's what it is. We don't need to give Houston a home game anymore.
Yeah, I like that take, though. Just relegate the South. I don't know that they're going to be like Tampa's intriguing to me with Baker. Bucky Irving is nice. I like Bucky Irving a lot. I like their weapons.
Well, if I asked you the question, because we did the exercise. Oh, the Bills will be 13-4. No, they won't. They're going to lose to a team you don't expect. And I said Atlanta because I'm not sure for Atlanta, but really they should beat Atlanta. But what about Tampa? What about those running backs? What about Baker Mayfield? Heck, Tampa 2 years ago came up here, and they were a Hail Mary away from beating the Bills on Thursday night.
That's right. It's never easy. And even against teams you think you should win, and Tampa right now feels like, oh, that's a win for the Bills. At home? Come on. Yeah, I don't know. Not so sure. In Atlanta, we don't know. We don't know what Atlanta could be. I can tell you about Tampa and Atlanta. I don't know that I love their head coaches. I don't know that I see Raheem Morris or Todd Bowles as like guys that will be head coaches that can get those teams, over that hump and into the Super Bowl.
Todd Bowles gets the "You're Still Here" award,
right?
Okay, that's
right. Or the "What would you say you do here?" Right? Like what would you say you do here? But Bowles, yeah, he's still there, and Morris back in Atlanta again. Are the Panthers better this year? I think so. Yeah. But still, it's like when you look at their roster, like
no.
With what? With who? And the Saints should be tanking. The Saints should be the worst team in the league. Should be. We'll see. Jim Irsay passing away. That's the biggest story, I think, out of the NFL. 65 years old, so far too young. Battling. I think he's been battling for a good portion of his adult life.
15 times in rehab, at least. Those were his words. So it's part of the story. Like addiction, it's terrible. And even you could have all the wealth in the world as he did, and still not going to matter. 65 is too young.
Aiden Hutchinson, talking to the media today, the Lions pass rusher, has been recovering from the broken tibia and fibula from last season. he announced today he's fully cleared. He's returning and practicing with his teammates. No word yet on Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, only bringing it up because it was asked of Art Rooney II, how much longer would you wait? And his response was the same as it was during the winter owners' meetings. We'll wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, and then Aaron Rodgers, sorry for my cynicism here, but like going to the cancer shield here, where dropping the little nugget like, I'm dealing with people close to me that are dealing with cancer, which, look, nobody wishes that on anybody, right?
That's noble.
Yeah.
I want to believe him. And if he's telling the truth, and I'm sure, look, but what does that mean? Who in his circle is he that close to that's dealing with this? Is it his parents?
Yeah,
he's disowned them.
You don't have a spouse. You don't have any kids. So,
friend?
Yeah.
I mean, he's so vague in his wording, and we've been through this before.
He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt for me.
I agree. But at the same time, the Steelers, they look like fools. They look like absolute fools.
Sign me up. I love this.
Yeah. They look like absolute fools, not knowing who their quarterback is going to be and sitting and waiting and pining for Aaron Rodgers. Pining for Aaron Rodgers.
Opining on Aaron Rodgers.
My column. Hashtag my column.
When are you going to write a column? I think you should fire that up on the Fan Rochester.
You want me to write some columns?
Yeah.
Do some writing? You don't want to know what's going on in my head. You don't want the thoughts in my head to be poured out onto a screen.
Like when blogging was the thing, you had the AKA Mike Danger blog.
Oh, I did.
I remember that.
I did.
Yeah, blogging.
I wanted to create a website just to say I know how to do this, because at that time, like, if you knew how to build a website, it was like, oh, that's kind of cool. You can build a website, go to WordPress and get a template and design it how you want to design it and have whatever you want to have on it. And I wrote and I did a podcast off to the side and everything that was, again, some of the things circling in my head you probably don't want. And that website's no longer here. I don't know if I'm sure the internet keeps receipts, but
what?
I stopped paying for that website many, many, many years ago. Because why? What am I holding on to this for?
AKA Mike Danger, TikTok, X, Insta. Yeah, all right. You got a lot of followers out there, bud.
No, not on that page. We don't need people looking back at what I was writing back then on that page. I could get in some trouble, I think.
Couldn't we all?
We got to get to happy hour next. Man, it was a night of collapses, whether you want to talk about the Amerks in the third period, the Edmonton Oilers in the third period, but certainly the New York Knicks late in that game last night, game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I know Gino was paying attention. We're going to talk a little bit more about that collapse. We've got a round of shots coming up. We have time for more of your calls if you want to join us at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening. AM, WBEE HD2 Rochester, and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
The Amerks giving up 3 goals on 5 shots in the third period. That was the difference last night in Game 3, losing 4-1. Amerks head coach Mike Leone on a guy that we're all going to be looking at, goaltender Devin Levi.
I think if you ask Dev, I know he's got more. I know he's got more to give. He's been a horse for us all season. We believe in him. We're going to need him to be really good Friday night. He's got to respond in a big way, and I know he will, and he'll be ready to go.
Game 4 is tomorrow night here on The Fan Rochester. Our coverage will begin at 7 o'clock. Game 2 tonight in the Western Conference Final in the NBA, Minnesota and Oklahoma City. Knicks and Pacers play Game 2 at MSG tomorrow night. Baseball today, the Yankees beating the Rangers 1-0. Carlos Rodon, 6 innings in his shutout win. Jays over the Padres an extra 7-6. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The Bills will participate in Hard Knocks during training camp.
Mike Danger.
You can't dispute. This is a good look for Rochester. This is a great opportunity for our community to be showcased on a bigger stage.
Gene Battaglia.
For Hard Knocks itself, have they ever featured a team that some would consider being a Super Bowl favorite?
Laval 4, Rochester 1, as the Rocket regain the lead in the series 2-1.
I've got Jim Irsay in my head and in my heart today.
Picked off by Kair Illim.
The energy here is something I've never been a part of.
Pacers stun the Knicks 138-135 in overtime.
We'll look ahead to Thunder T-Wolves tonight.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has won the MVP.
He scores! It is raining power play goals at American Airlines Center, and Dallas has taken the lead.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Oh, my God. What was last night? What was last night? If you're a fan of the Knicks, if you're a fan of the Amerks, if you're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, and you're a fan of the Edmonton Oilers, or the best player in the world, Connor McDavid, just collapse.
That's why we love sports, right? You just never know how the script is going to go. And I was talking to one of our guys, one of our sales guys, Frank, and he's like, oh, I turned it off last night. I did not turn the Knicks off because I did not feel comfortable. And yes, you could throw every stat 970-0 or whatever it is. That
I have that stat. Teams trailing a playoff game by 14-plus points in the final 2:45 of the fourth quarter going into last night were 0-994. Let's change that to 1-994. Yikes.
Whew. Now, you also have to give Indiana credit. And I was listening today. Ryder was off, so the guy filling in.
Bogusch.
Yeah, Bogusch was filling in. You know, he said, hey, is it a choke or is it a comeback? Now, he didn't bring up the great comeback game, but in Houston, what the Bills did, they don't call it the great comeback game. They called it a choke. Was it a choke by the Knicks? Sure. Like in overtime, they didn't make plays. They missed defensive assignments. You missed a couple free throws. But I just viewed that as great basketball, that Indiana, oh my gosh, the guy was unconscious. Who is Aaron Nesmith? I know his name now, 8-9 from beyond the arc.
We're just going to call him Jesus in a Pacers jersey. That guy didn't miss. He was parting the court. And what in the Kawhi Leonard did Halliburton do to the Knicks at the end of that game?
It's one thing to hit the shot, but then to bank it off, back rim, straight up into the air, swish.
With the choke
yes.
sign afterwards on the anniversary of Reggie Miller doing the same thing to the same team in the same arena.
And then Reggie Miller giving a little nodding the head and pointing at him.
Yes.
Wow.
And, I know the NBA on TNT guys loved the ending of that game, and who couldn't? I mean, like, if you're a Knicks fan, you're disappointed. You're pissed off that it ended the way that it did. But that, I think, to me, that was more about Indiana. Indiana just keeps doing this. I mean, they've been doing this all postseason.
They did it twice to Milwaukee, not at that scale, but it's like a minute left. They're down by 7. They won.
Yeah, they scored a frantic pace. They're a team that you have to take seriously. And if look, I don't think the Knicks were that bad last night. I mean, you had Brunson going for over 40. Cat had 30 and 10. I mean, you just have to be aware going into game 2. not to let your foot off the gas, and you got to D up. Don't give them that 3-point line and D up.
Plus, is there a coach we overlook in sports like Rick Carlisle?
Seriously.
I mean, he's a great coach. He won a championship. Pop quiz, who did he win it with?
Dallas.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
The one and only that they won.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's also, and I'm not saying Tibbs did a bad job last night. Although
it's a contrast in styles.
It's a contrast in styles. Like you're keeping Brunson out there all those minutes. Oh, foul trouble. Then what? Look, the Knicks actually responded, ironically, when they went on a 10-0 run. I'm thinking, okay, you got this in the bag. We're good. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Carlisle keeps his guys fresh. And what was the stat that PJ threw at us? His guys don't play more than 32 minutes a game, something like that. So, a disappointing collapse for the Knicks, although I think more about Indiana just being Indiana. That's what they are, and they're going to be a challenge. Nobody said it was going to be easy if the Knicks get to the NBA Finals. It's never easy this time of year. You think about the journey to get to a championship for the ultimately for the team that wins the championship. This is essentially the halfway point. Like, you still have to win 8 games when you get to the conference finals and the finals.
It's funny how, like, our minds kind of scrub things. Moses Malone once had the 4-4-4, like meaning sweep, 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 and you think it's going to be just kind of easy, but you have to face adversity somewhere along the way as a team. And for the Knicks, sure, this might be it right here. Look, can we piggyback the Amerks into this? I believe, and this is not home or me, I think they're going to respond. They did last year in Syracuse, different little team, of course, but there's no reason to think the Amerks can't respond, at least force it to a Game 5 on Sunday.
Amerks head coach Mike Leone on responding in Game 4.
You've been through those situations a lot. I think we learned from tonight. And then, our season's on the line. I know we're going to play desperate hockey, and I fully expect our team to be ready to go from the puck drop. We just got to respond. They've done it all year, and great leadership in the room, and have a good practice tomorrow and be ready to go Friday night.
Funny how things can kind of change. When we're doing our show on Friday, okay, the Amerks lost Game 1, but coming off that Syracuse series, we're like, wow, 2 shutouts, this long string of scoreless. Devin Levi, he's ready. Taking Buffalo. And then, everybody kind of like mostly pushed back, like, well, let's see a little bit more. Let's kind of wait. You're jumping the gun there, Gene, a little bit. Now bring us a week later, and it's 1-1. The Amerks get the tying goal from Rushek. You can't give up that goal 2 minutes later. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Levi just not quite tight up enough against the post there, and giving up one immediately after the Amerks evened it up in the third, which led to a couple more goals on a 4-1 Game 3 win for Laval. So we move on to Game 4 with the Amerks season on the line. That's tomorrow night here on the Fan, Rochester, just after 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so we have time for your calls here in Happy Hour at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You don't have to say this, Danger. I'll say it. It's our Friday here in the sports bar.
It is. Yeah. We got a nice long holiday weekend in front of us. Wish the weather would cooperate, but we're still going to get there, and we got plenty of action to get to.
Rainy night. Are you still garaging on a rainy night?
Oh, man, I was in the garage last night. I had Stars Oilers on the projector on the wall, and I was just plugging away at some work. Had a nice glass of brown liquid next to me with a big chunky ice cube in there, and the rain was coming down. Could hear the rain coming down. I'm wearing a hoodie. I mean, it felt like fall. I kind of want it to be a little bit nicer Memorial Day weekend. I know a lot of people are upset and really kind of like wish that this dank weather would give way. We're in this horrible weather pattern that we can't seem to shake. But last night was enjoyable. Last night in the garage, absolutely. But, the long holiday weekend, hopefully you have the chance to spend it with family, friends, those that you love, and remember the true meaning of Memorial Day. And we have plenty of sports action going on, whether you want to talk about the Amerks this weekend and hopefully extending that series against Laval. But you certainly have the conference finals in the NBA and in the NHL to keep you preoccupied, as well as Major League Baseball. The Yankees getting a win today, sweeping the Rangers.
Yeah, and so is anybody going to step up and say, hey, we're the team to – I mean, Boston's farting around. The Orioles fired their manager last week. I mean, it's just a division that's just – or is it just kind of the American League overall? It's going to be the Yankees and whoever comes out of the Central. And
what about Detroit?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, best record in baseball. Yeah. I mean, like, Is Detroit giving teams like Pittsburgh hope? Like, oh yeah, we can build something with just a good pitcher and some other young talent and prospects.
I think they spend a little money, at least on their manager. They brought in Hinch, so
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
They're in Pittsburgh, by the way. They're doing everything they can to diffuse any talk of trading Paul Skeens. There's been a couple of people, myself included, saying, just go. You're never going to pay him. Just get something for him now. And so enough people start mentioning it, it becomes a story. Like, hey, would they consider trading Skeens to the Red Sox for the number one prospect in baseball? Would they do that?
Oh, and every fan base is like, I give up this and this and this. I want somebody to ask Skeens this question. Like, your future isn't here.
Right.
This isn't fair. Like, what other team in sports where, like, yeah, it's great that you're called up. I mean, you're not a major league team if you can't retain your own talent. That's not a take. I mean, that's a fact. You don't belong if you can't pay your own talent. It's not exactly a salary cap in baseball, but aren't the Pirates kind of taking their share of the revenue from other teams? Yeah. And you're not going to reinvest that? I think the owner's scum.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I see a team like Detroit doing what they're doing. I'm like, oh, maybe you can do it with, with younger play. The Pirates roster, though, is just blech. Tommy Pham. Blech. You got Skeens and
I gotta look up the Tigers' payroll.
A bunch of guys. Yeah, to see them with doing what they're doing this year off of what they did last year in the postseason, kind of surprising people.
Well, the Pirates have like guys that the Tigers have guys the Pirates would never have. Javier Baez, he's still making $25.
Javi Baez
still around.
Yeah.
Jack Flaherty, who was with the Dodgers last year, I forgot. Like they brought him back, $25 million. Gleyber Torres is over there, $15 million.
All right, so they got some guys that they're
paying.
spending.
Yeah, but it's not. You're not bringing in a Juan Soto or anything. If you missed it earlier, Dan Fates, Yeah, like anybody else want to like poke
Nobody
fun?
was picking on you. I mean, he was saying that what we all say. Soto, it's hard to run when you got all that money in your pockets. Like we get it. It's tough. We expect more, Gene. That's all. You expect more as well.
I do.
The reality is the team, your team, while they might not be in first place, 10 games over 500.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Pleased.
Pretty good.
Pleased.
And a player that you could see as one of the three best hitters in Major League Baseball, a guy who gets on base more than routinely. He'll figure it out. They'll get it right. Maybe not right away, but over the course and the duration. I mean, think about what Lindor was like when he first came to the Mets.
Even the beginning of last year, where he couldn't hit his way out of a paper bag in April. So, but it just feels different when it's one thing when you're not seeing the ball and you're in a slump. It's another thing when the attitude isn't there and, hitting a ball off the wall in Fenway and getting a single.
You got a problem with that.
Yeah.
In the NFL, Jim Irsay has passed away. Colts owner was 65 years old, survived by his 3 daughters, 10 grandchildren. No official word yet from the Colts on who will retain ownership, but it's believed that the Irsay family, the daughters, will figure out a division of labor of sorts there to figure out who's going to be running the team in Irsay after Irsay's departure.
He was no longer married, so only an ex-wife. So normally in these situations, it would go over to the spouse. So you're just assuming, we're all assuming that the trust was set up correctly to pass this down here. So,
but then you start to think about what that could look like closer to home in the future.
Yeah,
like when do the Pagulas get more involved? The Pagula kids get more involved in mom and dad's teams. We've seen the daughters at Sabres press conferences, and we've seen the family at training camp for sure. But how involved are they in the actual business of the Buffalo Bills?
Well, if you say that's morose, Terry Pagula's 74. What did Ralph Wilson live to? 91? Like a Terry Pagula, it's part of Jim Irsay's story. Like he had some demons. And,
it's not necessarily comparing apples to apples with Irsay passing at 65 and all the trouble that he had health wise. Terry, by all accounts, is a healthy 74. But at some point, when do the kids get more involved?
Never thought his wife would have a health episode where she is no longer in control of her decisions as an adult.
Yeah, that's correct. And everybody, one team after another, putting out their own release on Jim Irsay. I'm going to remember Irsay more than anything. I want my lasting memory of him to be the one owner that spoke out against that scumbag Daniel Snyder. I feel like everybody else kind of kept it tight. We're protected. We're a boys club.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of knew this guy's not great, but nobody really said anything until it was Irsay a few years ago finally saying what I think everybody wanted to say is like, yeah, I think it's about time this guy hits the bricks. And just a few short months later, you saw Daniel Snyder lose control of the Washington football team.
I do not feel it's in the best interest of the Shield and the NFL. This is not how we should be represented, and it's regrettable that we have to be in this position.
That was his comment on Daniel Snyder?
Yeah, and it's just this pretty basic stuff, right? Snyder is just a reprehensible human being. He's bad for business. Also, he stole from you. He literally cooked the books. Like, why isn't he in jail if you're doing things like that?
The safe harbor, right? That's why he's not in jail.
Yeah,
maybe. He lives on his boat. You can't catch him.
Where's the Lady S these days?
We don't know. We got to get the tracker, find out where the Lady S is at port. Aiden Hutchinson will return. He's back to full strength, fully cleared for the Detroit Lions, the pass rusher recovering from last year's broken tibia and fibula. And I don't know if you've got this coming up in shots yet or not, Gino, but I feel like it's been almost 2.5 hours and we have yet to reach our quota. Is there anything new on the Belichick-Jordan Hudson front? One of our favorites has been following along with this too. I don't know if you remember Lucy. We had Lucy Burge on with us, and Lucy can't get enough of this. She's very, very invested in this. Maybe a guest somewhere down the road for the sports bar to just talk about Belichick.
Yeah, just Belichick. It was. I remember this. You were down in New York with your guys' event, Mets, Bourbon, whatever. The day after, we invited our buddy Mudd in, and it was the day of the previewing the Kentucky Derby, and I just kind of questioned it. He's like, I could talk an hour on this. It's not a sports topic, but why does this resonate with people? Is it because we thought we knew Bill Belichick and nah, you don't know him at all?
Well, the story that's circulating now is the thing that we were talking about earlier this week, which is the new paint job on Belichick's boat.
Right.
Going from 7 rings.
We were like
to 8 rings, right?
Right.
So maybe a tip there that there's another ring on a finger after reports are that Hudson has told at least one person that she's engaged to be married to the former Patriots head coach. No new news today, though, I don't think. At least I haven't seen anything. Gino, you doing a quick scan, nothing new to report?
It's like there's all these fake news websites, so you really got to kind of...
Yeah, you got to do your work on that one.
Did you really think we would get the shots and not have an update on Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson?
We have something in shots?
Of course we do.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't want to spoil anything. One last bit of NFL news, and we talked about this earlier as well, the idea that coming out of the owners' meetings, when pressed, Steelers owner Art Rooney II said that the same thing he said at the end of the winter owners' meetings. How long are you going to wait for Aaron Rodgers? We're going to wait just a little bit longer. You say this all the time. You're the first person I heard say this. What does it take to get a deal done? You need a deadline. You need a deadline. Well, the Steelers start their OTAs next week. Those run through June 5th. Then they have the mandatory minicamp that ends the offseason program on June 10th. May is done. Like, we're going to get through this weekend and be like, oh, my God, May is where did May go? It's gone. This is coming up. We should hear something about Rodgers signing with the Steelers. You would think if they want him to be a part of this team before they go to training camp.
Well, all right. So, and this is Aaron Rodgers. You can disagree with me on this, but he's using cancer as a shield. He goes on Joe Rogan's podcast, not McAfee. Sidebar, McAfee must be all pissed, right? He's on McAfee's payroll, literally, and he's not. Anyhow, goes on with Joe Rogan, his buddy, and mentions that I've got people in my inner circle that are battling cancer right now. which, okay, nobody wishes that on anyone. However, how can you tie that to not making a decision? If that's true and you have personal things, why wouldn't you say, hey, Steelers, I'm in, but I have personal things. You haven't made the commitment. Somebody having cancer, how does that relate to you not making a commitment?
I'll also say this, and I don't know because he's not going to tell us, and he doesn't have to, but there's varying degrees of cancer, right? There's, stage 4, oh my God, we better say our goodbyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, all cancer is serious and shouldn't be poo-pooed, but like something is outpatient and like, okay, I had a skin cancer thing that I had to deal with and it's gone. Or I had myself personally, I dealt with a tumor in my bladder. That's cancer. That's a cancerous tumor that was in my bladder that I had removed a couple of years ago. I don't walk around going, yeah, I beat cancer. Like, there's varying degrees.
And also, I don't say, I can't do the show today because somebody close. My buddy Danger has cancer.
Right.
Didn't do that.
Right. So the idea that's, look, again, he's a free agent. I don't have a problem with him taking the time that he wants to take, weighing the options that are available to him. We kind of know what his number is. My guess is the Steelers don't want to pay him $10 million, but maybe that's what this is all about. Maybe they have that already earmarked for him, and it's just a matter of him saying, yeah, I'm in. Let's go.
You don't want to pay him $10 million. That is such a ridiculous bargain for an NFL starting quarterback. You got away with it last year paying Russell Wilson $1. What did that really get you? You signed up with this. Like,
I have zero sympathy for the Steelers.
Every day that goes on, the more, and I... Danger, nothing. I shouldn't say this. It might be the first bet where actually I wouldn't mind if, like, he says, "Yeah, I'm not doing it." And we get
you
to the
would
first
gladly
week.
pay over.
Oh my goodness, Mason Rudolph, week 1, yes.
I can't remember from the schedule release a couple of weeks ago, but did the Steelers get they got a couple of primetime games? Did they get up to 5? I'm trying to remember because if the number is high for Steelers primetime games, you're banking on Rodgers being there, but they didn't know. They don't know.
No, I mean it looks like it's very middle of the road. Like Steelers Jets, that could have been a primetime game. Nope, 1 o'clock. Seahawks 1 o'clock. Patriots 1 o'clock. Vikings 9:30 in the morning. It's overseas.
Yep.
Browns 1 o'clock. Bengals 8:15. It's a Thursday night game.
Got it.
The Packers, they put the Packers in primetime on Sunday night. So
that's a tell.
That's a tell.
Or they're going to flex that out quickly.
Right. Colts 1 o'clock. Chargers also in prime time. Bengals 1 o'clock. Bears 1 o'clock. Bills at 4:25. Nothing to do with the Steelers. There's a late game against the Dolphins at 8:15. Again, that could get flexed out too. Everything else is 1
so
o'clock.
they got at least like 2 primetime games right now.
Yeah, and then the Packers, and you could just keep that there.
See those being flexed out. You got at least 2 or 3 on the schedule, but and they're the Steelers, so they always draw eyeballs. They travel well, is what I hear. But boy, for an organization that fashions themselves a 10, they keep acting like a 4. Give them a deadline. How important is it for him to be at OTAs? How important is it for him to be at minicamp? How important is it for him to be a part of this team before you get to training camp at the end of summer?
Well, what could put an end to this? The kid Howard from Ohio State. What if he shows up and like, maybe we have something?
That's the arrogance of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, but if you start reading stories next week, Will Howard look good?
Yeah.
You get a quote. We really like Will Howard.
Yeah.
Will Howard. Do we believe that, or is there a different thing in play here?
I would believe it. I would actually say they're telling everybody that because that's the direction that they're going to go.
It's not that, okay, you know what, Aaron, we're going to go with Will Howard.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers cares. I really don't think he cares. I think he only cares about 1 year, $10 million. I think that's it. That's the bottom line. If he doesn't get that, I'm not interested. I'm not going to do it. 1 year, $10 million. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, I'll be fine. He's going to do it what he wants to do it and when he wants to do it, and that's totally fine. But it's embarrassing for the Steelers. It's embarrassing with every passing day that they don't have resolution on their quarterback.
It's the state of Pittsburgh sports right now.
Rough. It's rough.
Because the Penguins have been living in Never Never Land. Like, okay, like their whole philosophy has been this.
By the way, Canada losing to Denmark.
How?
Hey, right.
How?
No heart. Just no heart.
The Penguins, like, we'll win enough games and get in the postseason, and it can happen. No, that hasn't worked the last couple of years. What's your new plan?
Let's get to a round of shots next on the Fan.
Yeah, we do have more playoff action. Last night was fantastic. Memorial Day weekend we'll set you up for as well. Who was in town at the Bee concert last night? Yeah, there was a family with a well-known family came in. You don't know this, do you?
I don't. I heard great things about Guitars and Stars with our sister station, the Bee, last night at the West Shore Auditorium.
So, like, is often like, hey, do we want to go to Rochester? Well, the headline performer, Low Cash, friends with this family. The family came into town. We'll tell you who that was.
All right, we'll get into that. A round of shots. And don't forget about last call in the sports bar. You can have the final word at 866-4FAN before we close up shop at 6 o'clock, 866-4326. In fact, use that number now if you want free tickets to see Brian Regan and his show coming to Kodak Center Wednesday night. You can get them at Ticketmaster.com, or you can win them for free if you're caller 5 now at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Good luck.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Sports Update.
For the first time this postseason, the Rochester Americans facing elimination, down 2-1 to Laval in the best of 5. Head coach Mike Leone, though, is focusing on the positives.
Honestly, I really like how our team played. To me, it wasn't a 4-1 hockey game. They made a nice play on the goal and got a little momentum in that 5-minute segment. But I really liked a lot of the things we did. Now, our backs up against the wall. We're going to need the same effort. But I thought we did a lot of really good things.
Game 4 tomorrow night here on the Fan. Rochester coverage begins at 7 o'clock. Yankees beating the Rangers today at the stadium 1-0. Carlos Rodon, 2 hits, 6 shutout innings for New York. On other scores, it was the Jays in extra innings over the Padres 7-6 in 11. Athletics leading the Angels 5-2 in the 7th. Phillies over the Rockies 2-0. Gene Battaglia, the Fan, Rochester.
The only way to take the Fan Rochester with you is the free Odyssey app. Download it today and follow the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Happy Hour continues on the Fan. You're in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia. Last call coming up at 866-4FAN. First, it's time for a round of shots.
So I've seen this stat a couple different ways. You had the number, another numbers. This was reported one way. Teams in the last 27 years in the NBA playoffs that were done by 14 or more with 250 left in regulation were 0-970. It's no longer a 0. Aaron Nesmith went bonkers, hitting 8 of 9 3-pointers. Tyrese Halliburton, the shot for the ages at the end of regulation. We'll be seeing that for decades. I can't wait. Pacers take Game 1. Game 2 tomorrow night at MSG. Tonight, Game 2 Minnesota, Oklahoma City. Thunder are favored by 7.5.
Look, the thing that's great about these series as we get to this stage of the postseason is, it's not going to be easy. All of these teams are good. All of these teams have good players. And if you want to be a champion and you're the New York Knicks, you have to have a short memory. Forget that happened and come out and play your best game tomorrow night.
We will have a new champion in the American Hockey League, the 2-time defending Calder Cup champion Hershey Bears. Bye-bye. They lost Game 3 on home ice to Charlotte. Charlotte, the farm team of the Florida Panthers. It's a pretty good organization. Florida, by the way, has never had a team in the AHL final. The winner, they were waiting the winner of Amerks Laval here.
Remember when that period of time when the Amerks were Florida's?
Isn't that weird?
Just a weird period of time in Amerks history.
It was because the owner at the time, Steve Donner, couldn't pay his bills. So the Sabres are like, okay, this is enough. And they took, how bad was that they had to go almost another time zone away to Maine?
Right, and Florida was, at the time, still kind of they were getting there. They weren't really like a serious organization. I think Florida hockey, as far as like Tampa and in Miami, it really once players figured out, we can make a lot more money if we played on here. Now those teams have this unfair advantage. Palm trees and taxes, as they say.
That's it. This sounds like something from The Onion. It's absolutely true, Danger. May 2026 will be the start of the enhanced games. Athletes will be allowed, if not outright encouraged, to use PEDs steroids, testosterone, HGH, you name it. The founder says this is to move humanity forward. The enhanced games has received millions in dollars in funding from venture capitalists, including the guy who founded PayPal. The head of the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency calls this a dangerous clown show.
I imagine it is dangerous. I'm laughing not because, I think using PEDs is okay. I'm laughing because I can't get the image out of my mind from the old SNL skit.
Right.
That's what I'm envisioning. The PED games would be the guy trying to, trying to deadlift, 1,000 pounds, and his arms just rip off of his body. Kevin Nealon, right?
Right.
He's ripped his arms off. Yeah, that part of it, I could see it being a clown show. I'm going to reserve judgment on this.
Yeah.
I've been kind of I'm obviously not telling anybody they should use PEDs. There's a lot of supplements out there that I think are probably banned when maybe they don't need to be banned, but the use of steroids or illegal drugs, of course, I'm not going to say I'm for that, but a lot of times in pro sports, I'm thinking to myself, well, they're doing it anyways. That like so many of them are looking for an edge or an advantage. What's the point? For all the criticism that McGuire and Bonds and Sosa got for all those years, and Clemens and all of them, we're still holding it against them. Like everybody was cheating. The entire sport was looking for that edge, and they used it. So we'll see what this looks like. Maybe it is a dangerous clown show, but I'm not entirely not interested. I just want to see somebody's arms get ripped off.
No,
I just want to see somebody go for the deadlift and have their arms rip off, Gene.
Danger, there's no, like you really think this is going to be on, like, one of the ESPNs or FS1, the enhanced games?
I'm curious. I don't know. I'm curious about it. I'm not going to, like, burn a calorie looking it up and saying, well, where's this going to be? I got to see it. But
I just think it's ridiculous that, honestly, this is really a thing.
This is where we are. Absolutely. I don't say I'm not for it, but I am kind of curious about it.
Well, venture capitalists want their return on investment. So how do you make a return on investment if you're going to...
TV money. Sponsorships.
It's sponsorships.
There's probably a lot of health companies and supplement companies that would love to have their names attached to this.
Dude, there is not a single health company would want to.
PayPal has his name attached to it.
If not, like, this is from their release, to encourage to use PEDs, steroids, HGH. It's like...
I'll watch.
Barry Bonds.
Yeah, give me Barry Bonds is carrying the torch, lighting the cauldron. They've got music playing. It'll be great.
It's Memorial Day weekend.
Glenn Danzig up there singing the national anthem. Remember him, the Danzig, the big muscle-headed guy that.
Here's our first Hall of Famer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lance Armstrong.
Yay! Everybody, yeah.
Memorial Day weekend starting tomorrow. There is one matchup in Major League Baseball I think is worth checking out. Dodgers and Mets, NLCS rematch. Everything else feels, come on, this is all understudy crap. The Yankees are in Colorado. The Phillies play in Sacramento.
Feels like wins.
Boston, Baltimore, they got rained out today. Only the White Sox have a worse record than the Orioles in the American League.
Yeah, why didn't they do the rivalry thing this weekend?
Right.
That would have made sense. They buried rivalry week. And I don't even know that I would call rivalry. I get it. The Braves and the Red Sox. Okay. Is that really a rivalry, or is it just because the Boston Braves?
They have to do things to invent the rivalry. And we touched on this last year when it came up. When the Padres and Mariners, a rivalry. No. But they invented something. The Vetter Cup. Like literally Eddie Vedder, because, well, he's from San Diego and lived in, he's known for Seattle music or whatever it is. He's from Chicago.
He's a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
But she's not even a fan of those teams. He's a Cubs guy. But he's got a trophy named after him in a Padres and Seattle series.
Yeah, the Vetter Cup.
Okay.
Yeah. Also Memorial Day weekend. How about some lacrosse action? May I interest you in the Final Four at Gillette Stadium tomorrow? The two semis, Cornell, Penn State, Maryland, Syracuse. There are Section 5 guys on the Syracuse team. Championship game taking place Monday at 1 o'clock.
That'll be fun. Those are some. I think Cornell's the 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Best team in the country right now, and to see some familiar schools in Penn State and Syracuse as well. That's fun. Looking forward to that.
Attending the WBE Guitars and Stars concert last night. It was sold out. Good crowd. The Gronkowskis.
Oh, yeah.
But not Rob. But Glenn and Dan and everybody else, mom, dad. The family apparently friends with the headliner, Low Cash.
Yeah, Low Cash has been around a while, and the Gronkowskis, I'm sure pretty much everybody in Western New York knows their story right at this point. They kind of had a fitness chain that they had throughout the area, and that's and of course with that comes 1, 2, 3. How many pro athletes did they have? 4?
Well, there are five boys in the family. So we forget, like, there was one that played for the Bills. Remember Rex brought him in and had him play football? He was there at the concert last night, Glenn.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And all accounts, a fun night last night at the Wester Auditorium for Guitars and Stars. And the Gronkowskis hanging out. That's cool.
As we head to a long weekend, Did we get confirmation that Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson are engaged?
Oh, thank God you brought this up. I was worried we weren't going to get to some Bill Belichick talk before the end of the show.
Did we get confirmation, Dangerous? Sorry. No, we did not. But leave it to that witty Jordan. She put something once again on social media. It's nothing more than a typical date night. It's a picture of wings. Table sitting near a body of water at sunset. I can't tell you if that's Nantucket or if it's the Outer Banks. I really can't tell. But the wings have the spices ready. The caption reading, Old Bay with my Old Bay.
So no picture of Belichick there.
No, just the wings. But I always thought you put Old Bay spices like on fish, but they're putting it on their wings.
I think you could put Old Bay on pretty much anything. I haven't done it on wings. I think that would probably get me arrested in these parts.
Right.
But yeah, Old Bay is you could throw that on pretty much anything. Well, Real Original posting a picture of her food on Instagram. And she's doing PR for this guy? Come on, Bill. Can't you do better? I'm telling you, when we get to football season, he starts winning games, we're not talking about her anymore.
Yeah.
The best thing that can happen for Bill Belichick now, short of moving on scot-free, which won't happen, get football season underway. Win some football games. The story ain't going anywhere. We're going to get to last call next at 866-4326. If you want to have final word in the sports bar before we cut out for a long holiday weekend, join us now, 585-866-4FAN.
You're listening to the Fan, Rochester.
Should mention that when we return to the Sports Bar Tuesday afternoon, we'll be joined by Matt Perino covering the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard, and to talk about his 5-game series win in Laval, Amerks head coach Mike Leone. I didn't have a bird crap on me for nothing, Gino. That's happening. So we're going to talk to Leone on Tuesday, and we're going to learn all about the Amerks winning not just Game 4, but also Game 5 on Sunday.
Aaron, we'll have to tell him that bird story there, too. By the way, Sean McDermott's going to talk on Tuesday.
Oh.
So, all right, we'll get his thoughts. See if we have – is it in season, Sean, yet, or still playful, Sean? We'll figure that out.
Okay.
866-4FAN, 866-4326. Let's high step into the weekend. Some good calls here. Let's get going. John in Rochester. What's up, John?
You said good calls. Oh, hey, John.
Hey, guys. Before I forget, have a good holiday weekend.
Appreciate
Enjoy
you,
yourself.
Man. Thank you.
You know, I got to tell you, Bill Belichick is my hero. I'm older than him, not by much, but a year. What a guy, man! Oh man, I'm happily married, but I'll tell you, I admire the guy.
Stop.
What does your wife say about? What does your wife say about your newfound love for Bill Belichick?
Oh, she knows it.
She understands it.
He's I'm a Bill Belichick guy. Even though I'm a Bills fan, I admire the guy. Even before this thing with this young woman, but the guy's a winner.
We'll see. I mean, is he a winner, or did he have the greatest quarterback of all time for all of those championships?
Well, he had both, and he had Gronk too. But listen, guys, I got to say, I agree with you on that Hard Knocks thing. If it wasn't for that Hard Knocks, we wouldn't have got that easy schedule. With that easy schedule, I think we've got a chance to go 17-0. What do you think?
There he is. There's our guy.
Why are we stopping at 17-0? Like you're going to get the bye. You're 20-0.
That's right. That's good, John. 17-0. Look. You think that somebody from the NFL? You think that Raj tapped Terry on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you like that schedule, huh? It's a nice schedule, isn't it? Pretty good schedule. You like that schedule? Here's what you're going to do for us. Hard Knocks. We want Josh Allen on Hard Knocks. Can we make it? Yeah. Okay. Done." Nobody wants it. Bean doesn't want it. McDermott doesn't want it. Allen doesn't want it. Like, they don't want it. But
what if this James Cook thing spills over to training camp? I think it's 50-50 it does. You're having to deal with an agent. Like that. It's fine when Brandon Bean is out doing interviews with us and talking to McDermott. That's the part of it I would find.
Cameras in Brandon Bean's office while he's talking to James Cook agent, trying to negotiate a deal or talk him out of a holdout. I don't know how big of an issue that's going to be, but it certainly will be a storyline. I mean, it's not going to get resolved before training camp, I don't think.
Well, I could predict here on Tuesday. So, hey, Sean, we're here with Sean McDermott. Sean, Coach, who isn't here today for the first day of OTAs? Is everybody here? You're Sean McDermott.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Everybody except for James Cook.
Oh, okay. But we love James Cook.
We love James. Yeah, Jimbo's one of us. We want him here. We expect him here. He's under contract. It's not, as you know, it's not mandatory. So we respect players. And
how many times will you hear that on Tuesday? It's not mandatory.
As you know, it's not mandatory. So yeah, we love Jimbo. We can't wait to have Jimbo here, and certainly wish he's having a good summer. Fun show this afternoon. Dan Fates, 13 Web Sports, Buffalo Plus. Stopping by in the 3 o'clock hour. The voice of the Rochester Americans, Don Stevens, joined us last hour. If you missed those conversations, go to the free-to-download Odyssey app. You can listen to any part of the show that you may have missed throughout the course of the holiday weekend or wherever you get your shows. Just search at the Sports Bar for our guest appearances in podcast form. Also, a big thank you to everybody who watches on YouTube and on Twitch. Like and subscribe while you're there. Put a little wind in the sails. We always appreciate that. And you can find that, our YouTube and Twitch channels, The Fan Rochester. 4-day weekend, Gino.
Yeah,
let's get after it. We'll be back to see what the world looks like when we come back on Tuesday. Go Amerks. We'll be talking to Mike Leone Tuesday afternoon about his Game 5 win and the next opponent, Charlotte, in the Eastern Conference Finals. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan.
You're listening to